everyone, welcome to my channel. Here on the Sheenapreneur channel, I share information about government contracting, veteran business content, and other business tips. What's going on, everyone? It is Sheena, aka Sheenapreneur, and I am here with amazing person that kind of messaged me through the comments, and he filtered through, and I was like, oh my God, I got to get him on the channel. So Mr. Derrick Green comes to us from, where are you located right now?
Houston.
That's right. He's in Houston, and he is gracing us with his presence and his knowledge. Former contracting officer, and he was like, "Look, this ain't right," in the comments, and I was like, "Yes, we absolutely got to talk so we can get these people straight." So please, Mr. Derrick, introduce yourself and your company and what you do.
Hello, everyone. Well, I'm Derrick Green. I run a company called Sky Acquisitions, and we are what initially started off as a federal contracting firm in the areas of procurement and logistics. But then I decided to take a pivot and get more so into the consulting, since I had nearly 2 decades as a contracting officer and procurement officer. And so anyway, my background, I started off in the Army. Funny story. I know who are you? Always, baby, always. And anyway, I started off as a supply person, a supply guy. For those of you who's in the Army, 92 Alpha. So I got promoted. Then I wound up working in Brigade S4 as a property book NCOIC, and we had a warrant officer. Look, no, look. I'm about to say, look.
Here's
And
the warrant.
we had a warrant officer who got relieved of duties from fraternization.
Oh Lord!
That warrant officer was actually appointed as the brigade, as our not only the brigade property book officer, but also as the contracting officer for the DoD contracts that we handled in Third Corps Artillery in Fort Sill. And so anyway, needless to say, I was the brigade property book NCOIC, and I got voluntold that I would assume contracting officer duties. So it started there in the Army. I didn't care for it at the time, but then I started liking it. Learned all of the insides and outs. I literally became the person who created the evaluation criteria by which contracts are awarded, ultimately setting competitive range, which decides who gets the contracts and who gets their dear loser letter, right?
and you were blessed and didn't even know it, because
Yep.
there's a misconception, I'm sure, with a lot of people, that contracting officers are civilians, but contracting officers can also be soldiers.
They can be active duty. Oh my goodness,
active.
the Pentagon is filled with majors, lieutenant colonels, and full birds who are contracting officers.
Yeah, and I've seen some that were maybe like E8s. I don't know if they were necessarily contracting officers or CORs, and if it's a
you can be a senior NCO and be a contracting officer. The ideally it would be a warrant officer, ideally, but
Yes, because it's like one of those things we got to think about. I talk about on my channel a lot. It's like when it's time to get paid, when it's time to communicate. If it's a 4-day weekend, sometimes civilians work on that other day, but soldiers are not going to be there. So if it's a 4-day weekend or any type of, they got use or lose leave at the end of the year, they're not working, point blank, period. And it may not be anyone to take their place. So, okay, you started as you were voluntold to be a contracting was it a contracting officer or as a specialist first or a COR and then or just contracting officer straight up?
Contracting up. Well, you know how it goes in the Army. They figured, they was like, oh well, if he can be a brigade property book NCOIC, he should be able to hold his own as an interim contracting officer. Well, needless to say, they never got that actual contracting officer, and I was it until I ETS'd out of the military. So
you must have been really sharp. That's a blessing, as you can tell now.
I know, right? I know. So then after that, I went back home to New Orleans, which is where I'm from, and it just so happens Hurricane Katrina. We were a couple years after Hurricane Katrina during this time, and I wound up having to I had a huge hand, rather, I'd say, in building the procurement and contracting system in the wake of post Katrina, New Orleans. If you look it up, disaster number 1603. For people who want to, for the smart folks who want to verify, right? But anyway, so I assumed contracting officer's duty. That was at a FEMA operation in New Orleans. Got moved to downtown Washington D.C. Once FEMA was no longer needed in New Orleans, the government said, "Hey, we don't want the federal government in our business no more." Funny, funny. Now FEMA was going to put out more than 200 contracts to not only rebuild the city of New Orleans, but to rebuild it so much bigger and better to where they were going to extend downtown across the river. But the state didn't want the scrutiny. They wanted to keep doing what they wanted to do. So FEMA had to leave. So I went to DC. Then after working in contracting in DC, I went back to New Orleans years later and worked for the VA, Southeast Louisiana Veterans Healthcare System. I was one of the contracting officers who had a hand in Project Legacy, the activation of a new $2 billion hospital, VA hospital in New Orleans, which is now one of the leading hospitals in the country for the new direction. So that was a beautiful project. We had to put out probably more than, my goodness, close to $1 billion in contracts.
Ooh.
To activate that hospital. And then after that, I worked independent as an independent contractor. Then came out to Houston, where I was a city of Houston procurement officer
Okay,
for the.
stop. Stop. Wait,
Yep,
wait, wait. You didn't gave us 20 years of history in 3 minutes.
yep,
Okay, look, let's back up a little bit. So you were a contracting officer in the Army, and
yep.
then when post Katrina, you
Hmm.
worked for FEMA, or were you working with
FEMA.
Hurricane Katrina? Okay, so you got out of the military
Yep,
and then
yep.
you got a job at FEMA as a contracting officer
Well, I started off as an accountable property officer, and they and
in
they,
FEMA.
Correct, correct, correct. Because basically, see, every disaster is a project. The
Yeah,
disaster itself is a project. So
yeah,
that's how FEMA works based on disasters. So that it goes by the disaster numbers. So they were basically, they had people who just basically giving contracts to their friends.
yeah. Some things
You know,
change, some things remain the same, right?
and so I literally went to one of the site directors and said, "Hey, we need a procurement program. We need a procurement program so that no one gets in trouble here."
So there was okay. We'll leave that where it is. All
And
right.
and and and, and I made sure I had something to back me up first. Just how we have the Federal Acquisition Regulation, which is the one that governs all the agencies. I did some digging and found out, yes, there was a Homeland Security Acquisition Regulation, which of course is a subset of the FAR. So it's just how the DFAR would be to the FAR. The Homeland Security one was the one that would govern FEMA, because for those who don't know, FEMA is a sub agency to Department of Homeland Security.
Yeah, I just recently found that out like yesterday,
Yeah.
years old. So with that, so that's a great like segue because when it comes to the regulations, like people they'll try to trump me, they'll try to trump you according to the FAR because they got it from Chat GPT. But like when it comes to the
And did
FEMA,
Chat
let's say
GPT be wrong sometimes, y'all?
oh yeah, it be lying. It be lying. But
Yeah, it
like
be
with
wrong.
with with the FAR for FEMA in particular, I'm looking at that as more like an addendum to the actual FAR. Do some things supersede the regular FAR when it's in FEMA, or is
Nope,
it
nope,
just
nope.
okay?
FEMA, they can only add to they
Got it.
can't modify or take anything away. They can only add, and the only things that they can add, it has to be agency essential, agency specific, but it still can't be anything that breaches the actual federal acquisition regulation.
I
They
see.
can only add, they cannot modify or take away from.
Right, and I remember that term in everything pretty much. So make
Yep.
sure y'all hit like on this video because I see a lot of people in here and I don't see the likes matching. So make sure you hit like and ask questions as well. So you were a contracting officer for the Army while you were in the Army. Then you were a contracting officer for FEMA, created
Yep.
a program basically of a regulation of people to follow. Then you were with the VA
The
as
VA.
a contracting officer, and then you said the city of something before I cut you off.
City of Houston Strategic Procurement Division. Now, here I want to say something that's important for people to understand. In a lot of cases, acquisitions and procurement. When we say contracting, what we're really talking about is the government's acquisition and procurement program. That which and if they look it up for those Chat GPT people, it should say something like this. When we're talking about acquisitions and procurement in government, that's just the government's process by which they acquire or procure goods and services with use of appropriated funds. So they acquire goods and services by way of contract, with use of appropriated funds. That's all acquisitions and procurement means. But usually, in a federal government, we'll say acquisitions, but in municipality government, we'll say procurement. But they're used interchangeably. You can
Yes.
so if you say federal procurement, you're still saying federal contracting and federal acquisitions. You're saying the same thing.
No, that's a good point because people will try to make it like so technical. But like when I first started, when I was looking for the different vendor sites or anything, I would just put in that city, that state, whatever procurement, even if it was Department of Veterans Affairs in Atlanta procurement, and it'll get me to where I need to get to. So yeah,
Yep.
I appreciate that. It's all the same. Let me ask you this. This is not even a part of our questions. How are you with micro purchases? Did you get a little guy contracts with these micro purchases? Because boy, that has been the bane of my existence. Like trying to get those.
So I'll say this:
Mm.
if if they could show us reason why we would not use Uline or
Ooh,
they
what?
and some of them do good. Some of them do good. It's all about because the first thing they want to ask is, well, why would the government use me and not Uline or Granger?
Because
You
it's available, like helping small businesses, right?
Yep. That what the one that, but also it's all about being able to show something in some kind of 1 or 2 page proposal like thing. Because of course you don't really need a proposal unless you're responding to an RFP. But
Right.
it's good to give like a short form proposal that explains to the government how this is how we are a more convenient option than Uline and Granger, because we don't have, for example, you can say something like, because we don't have such a large clientele base to answer to, we have more time to give the agency individual attention and shape shift the way you need. Or we can do things that, because Granger and Uline is so big, they may have only 2 or 3 delivery options. Maybe we can come all the way to where you're at and bring you a cup of coffee with that. I'm being silly, but it's you want to think about ways that you can help resolve the agency's pain points, because a lot of times they have so much on their desk. It's all about coming up with ideas to make it more convenient for them. And if you can show that it's more convenient to use us than this large company, that's a hint. Remember, large companies are mass production oriented, meaning that they don't have as much time to focus on the individual empathetic things. So empathy, what can you get ChatGPT to say about how empathy ties into the need to this agency? Those are
That is
ways, you know.
okay. And look, we off script, and okay. For people that don't know, micro purchasing is a threshold, like smaller, easier way to procure services, and it's usually extremely fast, usually with a credit card or something of
Yep,
the sort up, and it went up to 15,000 as of October 1st of this year. So
yep,
in basically 14,999, they should be able to just say, oh, shoot, don't even need quotes, right? You can just buy
yep,
it. So
yep,
that's something that I had started chasing myself. Actually, a contracting officer from the VA kind of chased me. And that all those same things you're saying, I sat with him and was like, look, how can I help you with all these things you got on your list and you don't want to bid for something, you don't
yep.
want to put it out for bid. So
That's
with
that's a
that,
lot, Sheena. It's putting them thing publishing those
he
publishing those
showed me.
solicitations.
I was like, Lord have mercy. I only seen one and I was about to pass out. I did.
It's like in sometimes it could be like a 40-step process. It can be like a 40-step process within the agency's procurement steps just to get a project moving.
Just for
So if
one.
just for one project. So if we just to get one solicitation published. So if we can get around that somehow and justify it the way that we justify it, so many people don't understand how you can actually shape the way procurement is done from your own company. If you can just give the agency a creative solution that shows that you've studied the agency's pain points. That allows them to get around having to go the competitive bid route with everything.
Okay, so I got a couple more questions on this because I really want to know, especially you did the VA. All right. He's like, I did not come here to talk about this. But like
Oh,
for
that's fine.
one,
No, 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 we're here to help folks, whatever it takes. Yeah.
I really want people to understand that realm. So essentially I always joke and people say to stop joking that I scrub toilets, right? So we do other stuff too, but essentially we're doing facilities. So there's not a whole lot of creativity in that besides, if you say you're using green products, the government don't care about green products because they're trying to get cheaper, right? It's supposed to be better,
Yep.
faster, cheaper. But
Right.
in the realm of something that's, office supplies, like you said, you can get that from Uline, Granger, whatever, then what would you want to hear? What would make tickle your fancy if I'm coming to you with pencils and pens or cleaning actual cleaning services? Like, what is my wow to you that you're like, thank you, I really do need that thing faster, like more people, like what?
For me, I know when I was working as a contracting officer, when people can say things like, "Look, we have actually done some due diligence, and we realize that you guys sometimes don't have the time to wait on Uline and Granger's,
Okay.
wait on their inventory replenishment process." Because think about this. Those folks, when an agency has to order office supplies or small equipment, right?
Mm,
Guess what? Uline and Granger, those types of companies, because of how big they are not modifying their inventory replenishment processes to accommodate the agency. They're arrogant. They're already in this game. So if you can tell the agency, hey, with us, you don't have to worry. You don't have to worry. You don't have to wait for our inventory cycles. Not only are we going to deliver on demand, but then we're going to ask you to send us a quick, we're going to ask you to send us a quick spreadsheet of the different functions within your offices who usually need this kind of pen the most, who usually
mhm,
need that kind of, this type of equipment the most. That's because it's those are the things that attacks their pain points. Send, so for example, you're literally going to send that agency's contracting officer or purchasing team, rather, you're going to send their purchasing team a memorandum that says, "Hey, we know you guys have some pain points. Can you give us a few of the things that will make your processes easier?" Right?
memo.
A memo. I'm telling people, and by the way, that memorandums. Look, these federal agencies, they love memorandums. By the way, they love
Hmm.
memorandums.
So I hear
So
that,
so
put memo in the chat. I didn't
yeah.
even know
So
this. Go
So
ahead,
if you
sorry.
put so if you put a memorandum together, you're speaking their language. Think about when you were in the military, Sheena. If we wanted something from CIF or DPW or
Yeah,
whomever, everything's a memo.
that's
And
true.
they're not accustomed to civilian companies communicating that way. So get all of the federal
Oh,
agencies. All of the federal agencies, they pulled the play out of the military's playbook with the memorandum thing. So if you have a company that want to contract with the government and you communicate using memos, you're already showing that you speak in a way that mirrors the way that workforce does operations, which is gonna inadvertently make them more comfortable with you than people who've never even heard the term memorandum.
ooh, that's a key and a half. Oh my goodness. Okay,
Yeah.
truly. So those little things get you to the front door, right? So,
Yes.
so for example, we use Uline and the supplies a lot, but what about services, right? Again, going back to scrubbing the
Oh,
toilet. So what am I like? We noticed that your facility is dirty as hell because when I come up in here as a service member, it's dirty in the corner. Like, how am I identifying those pain points too? Like, but isn't that kind of like,
yes.
oh
I
shoot,
I would because that if you know people who do those things, you actually coming inside and paying attention to their facilities, that's letting them know, or that's letting you know as a potential vendor, or as a representative for a vendor you might know, that look, whoever is supposed to be doing this stuff ain't getting it done. And one thing what's another thing that's being pushed in the government right now, ever since COVID? Cleanliness. We want to now every government agency, whether it doesn't matter whether it's the VA, whether it's Department of Commerce, Department of Agriculture, Department of Defense, Department of the Interior, it doesn't matter. They want to make sure that their facilities are now operating in a way to slow down the spread of germs.
Just saying those words, slow down the spread of germs. I think that would hit anybody, right? Like,
yeah,
those key little points.
Yeah, and see people. So basically, what this is really a conversation about how can I help these people solve problems? Because one of the things that I said in my most recent ads that I put up on LinkedIn and on the main channel, on the main YouTube channel, was contracting officers don't care about helping you win a contract. They care about getting problems off their desk.
Yeah.
That's what they care about. They care because at any given moment, that purchasing team, contracting team, y'all just, by the way, y'all, same thing. Contracting, acquisitions, purchasing, procurement. These are the same people.
Yeah.
That purchasing team, at any moment, one person can have 20 RFPs that he's supposed to get advertised. That's a lot. That's very stressful. So if you can identify a problem that will prevent him from even having to advertise that RFP, you're grandfathering yourself in with that agency.
So, okay, so you're never aggravated or annoyed by someone sending you essentially it's almost like an unsolicited proposal, just a mini version. So you're okay with that. You're as long as it's short, sweet, and to the point.
Yes. Oh, yes.
What about calling?
Huh?
What about calling?
Calling, it just depends on who you get. Usually
for you, with all the agencies you work for, if someone's like, "Hi, my name is Sheena Parker. My company is we would love to scrub your toilets." Like,
see, I was one of those. I was one of those people who always feel sorry for people. So I'm gonna sit there. I'm one of those empathetic people. So I was so. And what's funny is it's hit and miss. Every other person is actually like that. Now I'm gonna tell you this. A lot of people I worked with, I would teach my employees to be empathetic like that. And here's why. Because see, and I'm gonna just give y'all a little game from the inside. See, a lot of people on these contracting teams, right? They're just thinking about how stressed out they are, how much stuff they got to get off their desk. But then, if they realize it, if they think about it, the people who are calling them, they're not looking for handouts, they're calling to help me. So when I really thought about that, I said, wait, if I just sit and start listening to some of these folks when they call in, a lot of these have solutions, that they can give us before we even have to advertise the problem. So a lot more of them are starting to think that way now. Before we get off the call, I'm gonna give them. I had it next to me. I'm gonna give them the FAR provision that authorizes unsolicited proposals. Hear why I'm saying that? Because when you call folks, when you call and send an unsolicited proposal, you want to have that FAR provision written on your memorandum. That it makes you look like, hey, look, I'm calling to help you. And by the way, your regulation authorizes me to send this email.
Can I put that in the subject line? Because you ain't gonna open it.
That's right. Okay. I would. That's what I would do. Yep. That's what I would.
That's what I would do. Oh, this is look. We got to pause for a hot second, because this is like on fire. I'm hot. So thank you so much, Ivan, for the super chat. Truly, truly appreciate it. Long-time supporter of the channel. And he put 2025. So I guess we going out 2025 with a bang, okay?
That's right. That's right.
This is gold even for me. So I really, really appreciate you sharing that, because just those little tips. People will bid on contracts and then feel, intimidated by the paperwork. But if you're a phone girly or a phone dude, and you can just call or to send a little memo to say, this is what I want to do, and put that in the subject line and identify those things just by that one tweak of your communication style, you're saying that it's actually way more beneficial to even bid on a contract. That's
Yep.
that's straight gold. That's bars. Okay. So make sure y'all hit like on this video. I'm already super excited. When I get off this phone, I'll be up all night. Like, let me write a memo to all these different people. So where can people find, like, so is the best practice to get a contracting officer's information like off of Sam? Like you just go down and look at different opportunities and just make notes of names and
Look up. I would say look up the network contracting office. Now, some agencies are going to call it something different because, as you know, these agencies are so big. There are going to be multiple different contracting offices within different regions, different
yeah,
localities, different networks, different directorates, things like that. So that language may change from agency to agency, region to region. But I always say look up that network contracting office because there are various directorates and networks within each agency. So hopefully the people listening, they're writing this down so that but understanding that it's not locked into this language. The language is so important to understand. The language, the way we use words change from agency to agency. So you can even Google Chat GPT. Hey, how do I find a networking contracting office for various different federal agencies? Right?
very good.
It'll point you in the right direction, and then when you go, when you start seeing these different phone numbers and these different activities within the various government branches come up, you will you it it'll pretty much point you in the right direction. You can say something like, hey, let's say an agency you don't hear people talk about a lot of times. Department of the Interior, Department of Commerce, or Department of Energy. And hint, I would go after those agencies. You always hear people talking about Department of Defense, VA, FEMA, and some others. But I would go after those ones. Those, right? Well, how do I find the various network contracting offices within the Atlanta metropolitan region or within the Philadelphia metro region or the Dallas Fort Worth region or Miami, right? And when it pulls it up, it's going to change the name. It's going to correct the language for you because that area may not use network contracting office. They may call it directorate contracting office, or they may call it their directorate of procurement of procurement and acquisitions. But or they may say they may say our purchasing office, but it's the same thing. So you guys out there, you have to catch these different terminologies. Contracting, purchasing, acquisitions, procurement. It's the same thing. That's where you find your contracting officers and your procurement officers, who are virtually the same people as your contracting officers. And
So let me
then,
ask, go
yep.
ahead.
Oh, go ahead,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead, go ahead, go, 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 go.
I was just gonna say. So, one of the things that I found too, like in my industry, facilities is closely related to construction, right? So, I've like often communicated with the facilities manager, which they may not have necessarily maybe the purchasing power, but they have the influence. Is that also someone to get to know? Like,
Yeah, yes, because because so within the acquisitions, contracting, procurement system, see, remember, we serve the service lines. They're our clients. So this is how so if you're a company that's looking for a contract, right? The government is your client. But those of us who work in the contracting and procurement off, those of us who's actually writing and giving out the contracts, guess who our clients are the different our clients and departments are the different departments within
buildings
our
and yeah.
agency.
Mm-hmm.
So the procurement and acquisitions office, we're pretty much just the underwriting people, but they're the ones who actually choose who they want.
And look, and
we
that is
just
a
let them
fact.
know we just let them know based on compliance metrics, this is who you can choose.
Yes,
So the acquisitions and contracting officers, your contract and procurement team, we're basically the underwriters
yeah.
that lets the customer know who they can choose. The customer is going to be the facilities manager, the logistics manager, the HR manager. that's those are our clients. They're the ones who actually choose who they want based on who we qualify in the contracting office.
That is so important for people to understand. I have actually been referred to the FBA because the construction manager thought I was not qualified and I was overly relying on my sub. So the contracting officer was actually upset. You could hear it in her voice. She's like, I don't understand, but they're saying that you're not qualified. This is way back in the beginning stages of, me trying to get in here, get in where I fit in. But
Yeah.
as it was even, we were even the lowest bidder. So we technically won the contract. But when they went through their other, because what do they say? You're the apparent awardee, but you're not
Mhm.
actually the awardee yet until it goes through who it needs to go through. And in that case, it was a construction management team, and they were like, she ain't even in. She doing a New York contract. She ain't even in New York. This is fishy, So like those people they can actually, remove you from the whole award. So that's important for
Yes.
people to know. The contracting officers, yeah, bring them lunch, but sometimes you might need to bring the engineer lunch, or you're not supposed to do that. But I'm just
Yeah.
saying, get
Yep.
cozy with the people who the clients are, just like you
and
said.
and because basically what Sheena is saying, and it's pretty accurate, is that basically, to sum it up, those folks that Sheena's describing, those are going to be your project managers. The program managers, they're going to be the project manager throughout that project. What's the
Yeah.
project? That contract is the project. So they're the eyes and the ears. They're going to be out there at the site. That facilities manager, or that logistics man, or if it's a logistics contract, the logistics director. If it's a contract that helps fiscal or HR, that person of that, they're the eyes and ears. So you want to get, they have a lot of influence over who gets it, over who
No,
gets the contract and who keeps it. Because if they're the ones, if there's an incidental, if you're always late, or you're always MIA when it's time to answer incidentals, they're the ones who's going to send that letter of reprimand to the contracting officer, and that contracting officer is going to go right to that part of the FAR that talks about timely response, timely resolution to incidentals, and they're going to give you your first strike.
I didn't been struck out. So it wasn't our fault. It was COVID. It wasn't our fault. But just believe, and this is why I got to tell my team. I got to tell a quick a little additive, because my team, when you're working with people who are like on the ground, right? They're phone people. They pick up the phone and call. So there's stuff happening behind the scenes that I have no idea. I have no email, no nothing. So them jokers will come back from 5-6 years ago and be like, "This is everything that we recorded that has happened." And I'm like, completely out of the loop. And that's a great segue into when you get a contract, right? Or even if you're going after a contract, can you hire someone to do the work for you?
No, the government
Not at
hires
all.
you, huh?
Not at all. I
Well,
can't
here's
get a
how that works.
sub. Okay, tell us
Here's how
how that
that
works.
works. Here's how that works, right? So as you once again, I think you did. First off, you did a great video on that. The whole middleman theory, right? You did a great video on that, and you even put up the FAR anchor for them, which is of course FAR 52. Excuse me, as we say, subpar 52.219-14, limitations on subcontracting. So basically, right, if I hire a surgeon, I don't expect him to outsource the surgery.
Ooh, that's a good one.
You
That's
know,
a good one.
um, you know what I mean? Now,
Mm.
let's say if I hire a surgery team, right? Maybe it's a neurosurgery team, and a chief surgeon he's a neurosurgeon, and he has some orthopedic surgeons that's working under him, since this is a neuromuscular operation, right?
Mm.
I know all these terms because I worked in the VA, y'all. But anyway, but
I think we can all
you
kind of get what you're
yeah, so
saying.
I,
Yeah,
I I know how to sound smart. So, but
yeah.
anyway, so so
Very helpful.
but
Mm.
so yeah, I be trying to sound smart. But look, if you have people on your team and you're managing a team, that's good. So for example, right, you can't just get a contract, and you can't just get a contract then sub it out and you're going hands off. No, that you have to you remember you're the prime, which means you have to be performing the core of the work proposed. There are various ways you can do that. It can be you hands-on with your people, or maybe it's your company, you're the CEO and you 1099 your workforce.
Mm,
Or if it's a whole other company that's going to be doing the brunt of the work, then maybe you guys need to work out a joint venture where, for the purposes of this contract, you're now adjoined as one, and since you're the one doing the bidding, you're functioning as a management services, as a management servicing organization, okay, management servicing organization, basically. So that those are the ways you clear that. But like I told you, when you and I first got on the call, there was this popular video that was going around Facebook and YouTube, and a guy was saying, yeah, you can build a whole business just being a middleman. Get it and sub it out. Get it and sub it out. Look, people have gotten locked up over this. Over the
big
one big
time.
these one, especially when you're talking about 40, $50 million, which is common in the federal government. Just so y'all know, 40, $50 million is not even considered a huge contract for some agencies. But
Yes.
the dollar amount is what they're looking at. What they're looking at is the dollar amount, and is the fact that they can't just be squandering money on getting hustled.
Yes. And I want to highlight that really really quick. So yesterday I did we did a private webinar, and that was one of the biggest things we talked about is like I was on a $3 million contract, and the contracting officer was like, I hate these small contracts. To us, we made it, right? But that's
Yep.
two tiers in a bucket for a contracting officer. They're working with multi-million-dollar contracts,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
often 8, 9 figures, probably even more often than some of the smaller ones.
Especially if you're
And
talking about defense or VA or Homeland
yes,
Security. Sheesh. Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
And so, and even to go back to what you said about a joint venture. So, yes, there's so many things that happens in this process. And besides just it being illegal, right, to just have someone else do the work and you get the contract, you're marrying someone who is
Hmm.
in control of your business. You never met them, never seen them. They're in Alaska, you're in Atlanta, and you're like, I'm just gonna find someone to do the work. Now, the people that follow me a lot, I know you're so tired of me hearing talking about this and hearing about it, but I just, I wanted to make sure I brought someone in who was actually on the other side and saw people do this. But like you're even a joint venture, that's a marriage. You guys come together and you made a baby, literally. Even if you
That's
do
it.
teaming, if you do subprime, you
That's
guys are
it.
in bed. You guys are under the sheets,
That's
and you're
right.
just finding someone to do it for you is extremely dangerous, especially when they're in a different location. You're not going. You have no idea how they're representing your business.
You,
They could be stealing it
yep.
or
Yep.
squandering it.
Contract control, right, Sheena? We call it contract control. You're losing
Absolutely.
contract control.
Put contract control in the chat because this
You
is
don't
this
have
is
you
so
don't have
serious.
contract control, because here's what you guys have to consider when you get a contract and sub it out. Um, think about Mad Day.
Who they?
Mad, MAD, Mad Day, Mad Day,
Mad Day.
MAD.
What's that?
Like basically, how you say, oh yeah, she cool right now. He's cool right now, but just wait till Mad Day come.
Oh.
So you just sub something out, and mad, and I'm to spell that phonetically, Mike Alpha Delta Mad Day. When Mad Day comes, and
Yes.
you and that person had an argument at the bar, the person that you subbing it out to, remember when they decide to go quiet on you, you know, and the only place you see them is talking trash on Facebook, but they ain't answering their phone when the government is calling for these incidentals, and they didn't communicate to you what's going on, and you have no site control. The government's not coming to them. The government's coming to you as the prime. So that person gets to take whatever money they got this far and disappear. You are debarred from contracting from the government. And if it's a contract, and this is what when I talked about the jail part, if it's a contract that involves sensitive information, now you could be looking at prison time. You trusted someone else with something that also had sensitive or classified information. And those of you who think you're ready to contract with Department of Defense, Homeland Security, Department of the Interior, a lot of these agencies that handles a lot of high level information, you have to consider that, when you can have a contract that's dealing with transporting items, but if you're transporting items that's also attached to documents that have that discusses classified material, you know
Yes.
now this is more than just being debarred from contracting or contracts. Now somebody's looking at prison time, because we know how our government is. You don't necessarily had been doing something, I don't know, that's considered
Malicious.
a crime per se, but the fact that you have access to information that they don't want you having.
And the people that have been following my channel, I did the series about the botched FEMA contract. I did 3 videos on that. And ignorance is not an excuse. You can't say,
Mm-mm.
well, I ain't know, or this person was supposed to help me and they didn't.
Yep.
They don't give a damn. I've been told specifically by a contracting officer, I don't give a damn about your sub. I was like, you cussing me out via email? Like, can I tell somebody about it? They were like, I don't give a damn.
Sheena, if them people have been in the government more than 5 or 10 years, they can say whatever they want.
Period. And I just
It's
was
it's 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 like an act of Congress to fire them, so that they don't trust me. If they feel like you
yes.
throwing them, if they feel like you got them against the ropes, oh, you're gonna be every cuss word in the world.
And I was fighting for my life. So I was like, put my sub. I was using everything, all the stuff. They did not care. So
Yeah.
that's like, this is real life stuff. This is stuff he's seen on his side, this stuff I've seen on my side as a contractor. And I'm telling you, like, once everything is cute until money is involved. And then you got a sub, even if things are good for a while, it may not be good for forever. I've had to like let go several of my subs because they went rogue. I mean, they have life
Mm-hmm.
stuff that happens, and then now we're not friends no more. And now it's
Yep.
like, oh my goodness, you threatening my life over something I can't even control. So you just never
Yep.
know how that goes. And when people are just jumping into business, especially the stuff that you guys don't understand and don't know, and
Yep.
it's a contract that's underwater welding, and you're like, yeah, I can do that. It's just a contract. These people on the internet are telling me that I just got to find someone that can do it. Do that to a point. You got to step in and find someone else. There's probably only one person that can do underwater welding. So where's the next
Yep.
person going to come? You're not doing it. So there's so many things that happen with that you have to make sure that you're paying attention to when you're bidding
Yep.
on something that you can understand, that makes sense. And the more money it is, everybody want to make the millies. And the more
Yep.
money it is, the more headache it's going to be. Believe that.
Yep.
Believe. More to
Yep.
lose.
Yeah. Them folks don't play around with that stuff.
At all. So we have a fresh progress beauty. I'm a researcher who does projects for the Gatner, Deloitte, Lockheed Martin, and the big boys
Ah.
are doing this every day. That's a fact. I mean, and they don't
Yep.
care. They got billions and billions and billions, and they got so many contracts. So
They don't
messing
care.
up your little business is nothing to them.
That's nothing. They don't care. They don't care.
Please believe that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when it comes, we talked a little bit about who's held accountable. So are there any, especially with being on the city side, here in Georgia, there's a couple of counties where they work directly with the sub. Like, let's say for me, I'm the prime, I hire a sub, and that particular county will sometimes work with us individually, even though that person is my sub. Have you seen where, they hold the sub completely accountable ever?
Never. Never. Never.
Damn.
The more they'll do, they might, if they see something being done wrong on the site or within a project, they'll get pissed off, quietly get pissed
Mhm.
off. They might come and throw a couple sarcastic or facetious comments at the
Mhm.
sub. But guess what? When that sub, by the time that sub turns around, there's gonna already be 10 emails that then hit that prime.
Yeah. Yeah. So just know, again, it doesn't matter if your sub bails out on you. I had a lady call me crying one time. It was a laundry contract, and the sub disappeared off the face of this earth. She doesn't know if they allowed to this day. And it was in a different state than where she resided, pretty far across the country.
Mm-hmm.
And she said that the contracting officer, good thing she had a relationship with the contracting officer, because he was like, get your ASS here now. There's nobody
Mm-hmm.
here doing the laundry. And she had to get on a plane, moments notice, little kids and everything, and go and save that contract. And that's only
Yep.
because the contracting officer cared to even say it. A lot of contracting officers are not located even in the same location. They in Alaska somewhere. They don't care. It's like, do what you
Yep.
said you're gonna do, right?
Yep.
So another question I have is when it comes to the proposals, right? Let's just say it's a regular proposal, everything's gone through the correct thing. What are the
Mm-hmm.
first three things you look at?
Ooh, there's a couple things. I will say this. First off, can you do this? Can you do this? And the key word is you, as in your business. Not, in other words, not you being, and I'm gonna say this, this is very important. Not you being the chief liaison who just stitched together a bunch of pieces like a sophisticated hustler,
Mm,
which I talk about. Look, I talk about. GovCon Empire Channel has a recent video called the Houston. It's called the Houston Hustler Story. Here's
ooh,
why I say that, because look, I'm in the Houston area. I call this the home of the sophisticated hustler, and let me explain. When let me tell you why. Because there are a lot of people. Look, Houston is clout chaser city. Um, and so people are gonna do whatever they need to do to sound good enough to win people over. So what'll happen is this: they'll show up they'll show up saying, "Yeah, I have a construction company that
mm,
does demolition, asbestos, and abatement," right? But really, you just have a license, you have a certification, but you got about 20 people who are in different places. None of them know each other. None of them have probably ever worked together, and you're gonna pull all these pieces together to come across like you have a company. Now, look, I know some
mm,
people. Look, I get it, y'all. You got to start somewhere, right? I'm not knocking. I'm not. This is not for me to dehumanize anyone or to shame anyone for having a starting place. We all need a starting place. I get that, right? But but what happens is people they do it to such an extreme where they totally misrepresent themselves,
mm.
right? So you want to make sure that you're not misrepresenting yourself, and it's at the point now the scrutiny is so high. Just to take this back to answering that first question Sheena asked, what's the first thing we look for? Can you actually do this? And there are a lot of things in your proposal that are telling. And when I say
Mm.
things in your proposal, I'm talking about based on what you say and based on what you don't say. For example, your org chart. A lot of people they don't think about the importance of an org chart, and we're not going to tell you because we
Oh,
want to because we call this common business sense.
so org chart is mandatory. Basically, you need to always have that.
Hmm. And
Wow.
so so if this contract involves let's say this contract involves the statement of work involves 20 different deliverables that covers 20 different sectors of how that work is done. And you're talking about how you and three other people is going to cover that. That's a red flag because
It's so
because
simple. But it's
because
just
that because if we, let's say for example, and we had a contract like this. Let's say if we want you to come, we need you to stand up. So in a VA, right? The VA hospital system has what's called CBOCs, community-based outreach clinics. Every large every large city and metro area has a bunch of community-based outreach clinics. Let's say the Houston area where I'm at, right? We got at least, I don't know, about 40 something suburbs here. So
mm-hmm.
no matter which part of the metropolitan area you're in, there has to be one that prevents you from having to drive all the way to downtown Houston or medical center, which is the medical downtown outside of the main downtown. Now,
Yeah.
um, here's the thing: with each of those CBOCs, we need basically a spinoff of all of the major medical services that you would find in a VA hospital.
Got
You know
it.
what I mean? So no, we're not going to have all the sub clinics and extra admin sections and all of that stuff. But for the most part, you're going to have your primary care. You're going to have your cardiology. You're going to have your anesthesiology. You're going to have your neurology. You so on and so forth. Right?
Mhm.
Well, if you can't be the neurologist talking about you're also doing heart surgery and foot surgery. Wait a minute. If I want foot surgery, I'm going to a damn podiatrist, not a person who's supposed to be a neurologist. If I want heart surgery, I'm going to a cardiologist. So if this contract requires you to activate a new CBOC and run it, but you got three different specialty doctors, but it requires seven different specialty areas. We already know that's a red flag.
So if I'm able to put together a joint venture with podiatry LLC, neurology LLC, and da 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 da, and I submit, well, even if it's a teaming, so I guess we can even talk about teaming versus joint venture, right? Because joint venture is a, let's not say joint venture because joint venture is a whole baby and you guys already decided that way before. But let's just say
Yep.
teaming, right? Because it's too late. It's already out. It's already out in the streets. We ain't got
Yep.
time to do a JV, a joint venture. So if I have a teaming agreement with all these different doctors, would you look at the teaming agreement like, okay, well, at least they, or does it look the same way as a subprime type of relationship?
Oh, no, 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 no. That's good. The teaming agreement is good.
Okay,
Teaming agreement is good, as long as there are provisions that hold everyone in there responsible for example, as long as it specifically talks about who is going to be doing what. Now, when I say who's going to be doing what, the only what's that we care about are the bullet points that's outlined in a statement of work.
got it. Okay, that
Um,
makes sense.
So all of the extra little side administrative things, you can outsource that however you want. But the main stuff that's in that statement of work. Now here's something I want y'all to get from this. Earlier in the conversation, Sheena, you talked about how intimidating those long solicitations can look to them. You know, we already know why it looks that long. It's because most of it is what we call standard language.
Yeah,
These are the things.
jargon.
So let's, yep, a lot of the fluff. So let's say, and this is something that's going to help you all, the people listening, what I'm about to say, this is going to help you all be more comfortable with sam.gov and reading through solicitations. Right? So that main solicitation might have 80 pages. But believe it
Mhm.
or not, most of what you need to understand what needs to be done is in one or two pages.
Yep, I talk about that all the time. What is it,
Yep.
section
So you
L?
know that. Yep.
What
Yep.
it
So yep. And if it's in most cases, it's gonna be in that section that says specific requirements, a statement of work, all
PWS, performance work
X
statement.
performance work statement, right? Unless it is for commercial real estate, and then those are all done the same. Your request for lease proposal, it's going to say
Oh,
it's going to say there's going to be a section in all of those that says specific requirements that
gotcha.
that talks about what they need for that building. That's so an RLP, that's request for lease proposal. That's just a type of RFP. Yeah.
Yeah, I've participated in a couple of those.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I won't
Oh
talk
yeah.
about them yet because they're still pending. If y'all got some questions, make sure you ask because this is super gold. If like, I feel like we could talk all day. So, but I know
Yes. Yeah.
I know you got stuff to do, but we still got another hour to get some of these questions out. But make sure you all ask your questions because he's here. He's here to help. So, as far as the proposals, and this might be even like a moot point, but the design. I know some people spend money on like the margins of being green and all these the pretty cover letter, pretty cover page. Like, does design matter?
It matters. I'll tell you this. It matters. Most of the time, it matters because it should. If you're somebody who actually will take the time out and and put this thing together to where it's a nice, clean design, shows organization, discipline, and respect for the time of the person that's reading it. It also says a lot about execution, what your execution would be. Now, here's
Ah,
when it does not matter
okay.
as much.
Okay.
When this agency has an immediate
Mm,
need, we just, and how do you know? When you've spent time studying the agency. um a lot of these agencies have portals outside of sam.gov just so that you can know what's coming, so that
okay.
you can understand the agency better. They do that to give you a little hint, not for you to think that you have a whole nother avenue outside of sam.gov, because they're really serious about streamlining everything. It's almost there, but they're really serious about that push. But that being said,
Mm,
when an agent, if it's like a really urgent need, then they just want the meat and the potatoes. They want it in a clean, organized format. But most of the time, if I would say this, if you have the extra time to make sure that you get that proposal in weeks in advance, and you're able to put all of that extra energy into the design, yeah, go for it. Go for it. But I think it's one of those things that says a lot about how you do work.
because I'm thinking like, and you hit on a point. I'm going to get to some of the questions in a second, but you hit on a point about submitting it early. Like I always tell people, submit it the day of, not the day before, because of course
Hmm.
we've seen addendums come out. I've seen addendums come out after it was due, which of course there's no way you can prepare for that. But at
Yeah.
least if it's the same day, addendums come out so late. So from your lens, what's the best time for you to receive it? Because I'm just gonna just putting this out there that if it's something where a lot of people are competing, you're probably getting them all at the same time. So if
Hmm.
someone was submitted a day early, you like, hell yeah, that's great. I'd rather that. And then I got more time to review it than the 10 people that are submitting the day of. Like, what's your thought about that?
Ooh, I'll tell you this.
He's like,
We
Lord, take me back.
I know, right? Yeah, I know. We really did appreciate the people who would send them in early. You know what I mean? Because it
Wow.
we did only because it helps us organize where stuff is in terms of which companies. But here's the thing: we can't really start evaluating until after the due date anyway. We
You
can't
didn't look at
evaluate
them. You
nothing.
didn't peek. You didn't peek through some of those and just get a like make some notes. Come on.
I probably had my times where I did. But here's the
Okay,
thing.
okay.
Here's the thing. We can't do anything that would influence evaluation until after the date. You
Mm,
know, you know,
I know.
but I have seen people look. I don't work for the agency no more, so I can say it. I
Good.
look, and I won't be working for any. I don't. I have no intentions on going back to any of the agencies. So
Got it.
yeah, they can't get. They'd have to buy me out of my VA pension, my Army pension, and everything to get me to come back. So
I heard that. Look,
yeah,
sometimes the chapter is closed. Sometimes the chapter is
look,
closed.
man, look. When you go and get a $500,000 house, and you learn how to live in that thing without needing them,
Ooh, yes.
how
That's
to
when
be
you made it.
how to be comfortable in your beautiful suburban home without and not needing them. It takes a
Amen.
lot for them to buy you out of your comfort. So yeah,
Especially
so
right
so
now. A little tricky right
uh-huh.
now. So it's a little tricky right now. So I probably wouldn't even want to be bought back either. So I totally understand that.
No, 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 oh no.
At
Oh, and,
all.
and and that made me think about something else. But I'm a wait. I got to follow your lead though. Because when you say this a little tricky right now, I know a lot of people are probably worried about, is the government going to shut down again? And I'm gonna tell it. But if that, if I could do a quick sidebar, I'll get off of it.
Please. Yeah.
If I want people to know, if the government does shut down, that's when should be running to the government even more. You know why that is? Because the people who stay in position, yeah, they have to remember, a shutdown is not the government quitting. That's that's senators fighting so that when things are repositioned, the people who stayed and who are already prepared, you kind of have first mover advantage.
So let's be practical for a second, right? Of
Mm-hmm.
course, I was in it during multiple shutdowns. So
Mm-hmm.
of course, this is the most significant one that just passed. But most of the time people are reaching out to, even if they had a contract. Like there's some people who lost contracts, and some people was just, just kind of paused, or some people wasn't affected at all, right? So if the government shuts down and I'm like, I'm getting into this thing, those people are not there. They may come back, but now they got 50-11 emails like waiting for them when they get back, right? Because most of them are just, some people still work, and most people don't. So practically, what's the best way to approach either during the shutdown or right before, right after? Like, how do I approach you? And you got hundreds of thousands of emails to sift through.
Well, here's why. Here, I'll say it like this. I'll say it this way. There's a lot of people who just stop off. There's a lot of people who think that their dreams are, because they're not educated on how government works. They think that their dreams are shattered forever when the government shuts down, and they get intimidated, and they never come back to the GovCon world.
That's a
Not
fact.
Yeah, they never come back, not realizing that they're now leaving some of their food on the table for the people who said, "Wait, I'm gonna wait this out, man." So
Okay. So waiting, you're saying like don't leave,
don't
and then
leave,
okay, you just
because
pretend
even though there's a lot of emails, because this happened when I was working for FEMA and for the VA. You know what? Here's the reason why it doesn't matter, because we have our ways. We still have our ways to filter through the emails. First and foremost, um, a lot of those emails that come through don't even sound like people who really should be working with the government. So if you're that person who understands how to communicate in that memo format, or how to speak in governmental ease, you
government,
know,
yeah.
yours the only one that's gonna stick anyway. You know what I mean?
So
Yours the
still
only
send
one.
the email.
Still send them, and then if you look good, if your stuff that you're sending look good, you have to remember there were some people who were up for award, and they quit when the government shut down, because they don't even know they were about to be, they don't even know they quit while the procurement team was generating a notice to proceed, or
That's
notice of intent to award.
yeah, that sucks because they're
You
just
know,
thinking that it's over, but it's
yep,
maybe
and
paused or delayed.
yep, and when the government gets back running, it's now more urgent.
Mm.
So the people who stayed in the queue, you're gonna get not only what not if you look good, not only are you gonna get what's for you, but whoever does what you do in a similar way that you do it. And whoever does what you do, let's say someone does what you do. I mean, excuse me, let's say the government needs what you do, but they also need something similar to what you do. They're going to be looking for you to give a suggestion of
For
who
other
of,
things, for the
of other
secondary.
things, of maybe a partnering organization that you know. Hint, that's the way to get your friends in there, right? Just if we could just come out and say it, or that you get to control, you get that much more power over who the sub should be. Because a lot of folks don't know. You don't know, this, or I'm sure they know this if they've been following you, but you don't always get to choose your sub.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's something that is a little, because we're mostly local, but
Yep.
that is definitely something that I have come across where I'm like, who the hell? Okay, fine, we're here
Yep.
now.
Yep.
Work this out. Let's try to get together and make this marriage work. I'm gonna go to
Yep.
some of these questions a little bit, and then we can get back to our questions. So, a fresh progress beauty said, any advice building relational capital with RFP project officer? I noticed proposals goes to people already rubbing shoulders. I'm not sure. Oh, maybe she reset it. She restated it. Any advice? But she said designing proposals would have been the best proposals that you've seen. He did address that. But going back to this question about relational capital, meaning
Hmm.
giving the contracts to your friend. So we know that happens, right? And I'll give my little spill, and then you give your spill about your take on it. But there's people, especially on the local side. I always tell people that you might have went to high school with someone who's now the principal of a school. They make the decision that you do all the facilities management for that school, like point blank period, as long as you're qualified. So I think they're asking, like she's seeing that people are getting contracts based on who they know. Now I know that that's not always true, but any take on that, as long as you stay compliant, right?
Yep. You know what I would do if she feels like that's happening. If you feel like that's happening, this comes back to the earlier in the beginning of the conversation. You can a lot of times you can supersede those people. You can supersede some of those friendships just by going to the top. Because see, here's the thing. At the end of the day, even though those project managers have a lot of influence over who get it, at the end of the day, the contracting team, the purchasing team, the procurement team, once again, our underwriters, they're still the ones who actually authorize and actually control the award. So that being said, if you go directly to that team unsolicited, letting them know that you've identified their major pain points, right? So let's say, for example, right? Um, let's say if this agency does something that has a profound impact on infrastructure,
Mm,
right? As most agencies do. When you think about government agencies, think about the regulators over the regulators of over the various sectors of infrastructure. That's all the government is. And that's all government contracts is just creating procurement pipelines to keep infrastructure moving.
true.
That's all. That's all it is. So if you can go to that agency, right? Um, you can find out who one of the top network contracting officers is in that agency, as well as one of the people in the chief of staff office. Now you're going above that level, and just you want to say that you've identified some major pain points in that agency that's literally impacting infrastructure.
You better say
Now
those
you're
words.
now you're speaking executive level language. That you now have something to cause the executive team to come and put pressure on the people who you feel is giving contracts to directing contracts to their friends. Because at this point now, most of the time, see, their friends are so lazy, they're not going to think at this level. Like
Mm,
the stuff that Sheena and I are saying on this call, they're not going to think at this level. Using words like infrastructural impact. No one, most people don't think to use that terminology, but that's executive level language. That language can literally penetrate. It can penetrate emails that will run throughout the whole agency, and that'll cause executives to come all the way down, as we say, crap rolls downhill, and say, "Hey, look, I know you guys have vendors that's been doing this, but we have somebody who reached out to us that talked about certain aspects of that's still not getting done in a way that's helping infrastructural things that people on the outside of the agency are noticing. But somebody sent us an email saying that they noticed it and they have a solution. So that's one of those. That will move that friendship thing out of the way.
mm. So,
Why? Because these people at the top, they're trying to be politicians and stuff. So
mm,
if somebody comes at them talking about infrastructure and the procurement pipeline and things like that, you're talking at that level, and they can bring in a vendor who's thinking at that level. That's helping them get to senior executive service level.
okay, because what I was going to ask was about protest, but we're not even talking about a contract that went out and is still in decision. We're talking about,
Correct.
right, the contract already existing right now, and the person's like, "What the hell? It's been 25 years. Like, why is this person
Yep.
still in here?" So, okay, when it comes to like a new contract protest, essentially, but if it's something already going on, that's when you use that language of you're impacting infrastructure. So
I would say,
that's
oh, in general, and I'm because I was thinking that she was saying maybe in general because maybe that's
I
the
think well, I think that's what she was talking about, and that was
yeah
good. I'm glad you highlighted that because I didn't even fully understand that.
because what she can say, but one thing, and if she's still out there listening, one thing that she can say, for example, is look, I noticed that there's certain vendors that have been, that are frequently, that you guys are frequently using.
Mm.
But but I mean, but we're noticing that, hey, look, this is having an infrastructure impact. So maybe going, you're letting the agency know going forward, they don't have to deal with these gaps and holes that they still been dealing with, despite the money they're spending with the current vendors.
I love this. It's almost like undercover boss, where it's
Yeah, and
like,
so
hey,
so
there's
it's
holes in
because
the organization, and here's
yeah,
how we can help.
because they have to. One thing they got to remember: the FAR, you got FARs, you got CFRs, you got United States Code.
Mhm.
There's all, if they feel, even if a contract is out there, even if there's a 10-year award that's going on or contract, right? If that agency has reason to believe that, 4 or 5 years into this contract, the agency is still not getting what it needs,
Mm.
you have to remember that the ability for that agency to function is going to always override um the actual contract that's in place. Yes, a contract is a contract, unless but a contract becomes a breach, not necessarily a breach. It's a certain word I'm looking for.
Like a
um
hazard or hindrance or
correct,
yeah.
or it become it no longer becomes something that has to remain solidified if the agency realizes that, hey, yeah, we awarded them this 10-year contract, but the agency is suffering as a result of certain unknowns that we didn't see with this vendor in the beginning. So
Mhm.
the agency has to function. The agency is not going to sit back and say, well, they got the contract, so we got to just let the agency fall apart for another 5 more years. That's not happening.
Okay, so you can even come and infiltrate. I like that. Okay,
Yes.
okay.
Yeah.
Let's get
And
a pause.
but when you come, you want
Mm.
to there's a few things, a few weapons you want to come with.
Y'all
You
listen
want to
up.
come with you want to
Let's
come comply you want to come talking about how you studied the agency and how you've studied the most important aspects of their compliance metrics.
yeah.
It's so important to understand how powerful those words are, because these are the words that keeps them out of water with IG, with the
Mm.
Government Accountability Office.
Yeah, which I didn't know how powerful they were until recently. That's a whole other thing that we can get into. I want
Yeah,
to
GAO.
GAO, that I've heard people say, if you just reach out to them and CC them or whatever, then that'll get all your questions answered. But let me get to a couple of things here before I have several questions even outside of our questions that I need to ask you. So huge shout out to Tia 5364. Thank you so much for the super chat. And Miss is it Yolanda Johnson Joshua? Good grief. Thank you so much. Over here spending, they spending on you. They doing this with the gems that you dropping. I love it. This is really important because like we can talk about the overall of contracting, and here's how you get this, here's how you get that. But then there's some of us that are like, I really need to know some of these specific details, or they're in the process of scaling, or some of these other things that like the young lady said that she's noticing. And then, well, now I got the ammo. That might be your first contract, but you're able to go in there with the specific tools that you just gave, and now you're doing government contracting. You didn't even necessarily have to bid. You're out here getting in a different way. So I love that. So let me go back to a couple of these questions, and we can go way far back. Okay. So, is this the one? How is the T administration affecting proposals? What are current federal priorities? Does that question make sense to you?
Yeah, so I see the first part of it. How is the Trump administration affecting
Oh,
proposals? Right?
thank
Yeah, some people don't like saying that word. So
Really?
yeah, I caught that fast. So
I see. I'm like, what?
yeah,
What is that? Okay.
so
Got it.
so well, the FAR overhaul. Um,
Mm-hmm.
that's an initiative. Just so y'all everybody knows, the FAR overhaul. All that is they're wanting the acquisition process. The acquisition process is the process by which we publish solicitations, to get what we need from people like y'all, the vendors. right? But they're moving past a lot of the fluff language to use more direct everyday language so that they can move things faster. Um, Eric Coffey even mentioned it right several times right now. Speed is now
Yeah.
becoming the priority now. So one of the ways it's been affected is speed. So um, what that literally means is, is that, it's no more unnecessary, unnecessary spread out timelines, or let's say you reaching out to the agency with with your proposal, and the agency going quiet for weeks at a time. Those days are over. Um,
Now or they
Now
oh,
it's immediate. It's immediate.
okay.
It started with Department of Defense, but now all of the other agencies are following suit because, as you know, Sheena, DoD typically sets the tone for how all of the other million government agencies operate.
Mhm.
You know,
Right,
so it
right.
started off with DoD. I was like, okay, let's see. Me and some of my friends, we actually bet how long it was going to take for all of the other agencies to get in line like little soldiers, like they always do.
Yeah.
DoD does something now. Department of Commerce is doing it. Department of Interior is doing it. Department of Agriculture is doing it. All of the other agencies, Department of Energy, NOAA, and everybody else is doing it. So, um, by the way, NOAA, y'all, that's the National Oceanic and Atmospheric
I had a
Administration.
contract with them. That was my first federal contract.
You got in with them?
I did. And look, that's the
Wow,
one
that's
that
good.
booted me out. That's the one
Oh,
that sent me 50,000 notes about the stuff that I didn't know was going on. It wasn't my fault. It was COVID. It wasn't my fault. It was COVID.
yeah.
They were
Well,
great. Like the contracting officer ended up retiring, but I did call her and we had a real conversation with her because I was like, I just want to stay and I want other stuff. And she's like, I'm retiring in 6 months. So nice conversation, but peace out. So
yeah,
it was a decent situation. So
yeah.
they were good. Okay, so appreciate that question, and we're gonna
Uh,
go to. You have
oh, you
more?
know what? I didn't answer the second part of the question. She said, "What
Okay.
is current federal priorities?"
Yes.
Um, remember, logistics and supply chain. That's always going to be a priority. That as the government makes all of these shifts, that's going to always continue to ramp up. So logistics and supply chain, right? But main priority right now is going to be is going to be tech. Of course, obvious. Of course, look, landscaping and janitorial, all that's always going to be a priority. That's
Construction and
always going to
tech.
be the fastest ones. But architecture and engineering, that's a priority.
Yeah.
That's a priority. But of course, tech, anybody who can do AI, cybersecurity, those are priorities. And a very unexpected one, um, veterans, homeless veterans. That's more than $5 billion out for that right now. Here's why. Here's why. Here's how rather. So everybody knows friends with veteran houses, right? Hey, I know this person who's got a 5 bedroom house. That's more grant oriented. But for people who decide to house homeless veterans and then scale it, there's what's called VA adoption.
Hmm.
And that's when you have a community you have a community. Let's say you have 10 duplexes that you want to use. You can now get that SSVF designated supportive services for veterans and families. That's and actually do an unsolicited proposal to actually get a VA contract. So
Wait a
that
minute. Now
that
you're
your
talking.
whole so your whole facility, your whole project, your whole program is now adopted into the VA's procurement pipeline. Especially if your service disabled veteran owned, you obviously go to the front of the line. You know, right now, and what's current prior? Another thing about current priorities: service disabled veteran owned small businesses.
Because
They're
they're increasing the
Yep,
percentage, right? Yeah.
yep. They're and right now, so they're the top dog right now. Not 8A. The
Yeah.
service disabled veteran owned small businesses. They're ranked above 8A and everybody else right now in contracting.
Do y'all hear that? Everybody want to get 8A. And I want to ask something about the GSA schedule after, but I'm going to get into the questions because that's a personal question. I don't care how long we on this call because I need to know
Yep.
about that. So we have, I think, I can media network. Can you elaborate on how important being responsive to emails regarding contract submissions are, and how a quick response time can influence award contract an awarded contract to your company if handled correctly?
Um. So let's break this down. That's
I
like a
think kind
two
of
or
touched
three
on it
part
at the
question.
beginning. Yeah.
Yep. So can you let's see. Can you elaborate on how important being responsive to emails regarding contract admissions are? Let me stop there. Um, I'll tell you this. It's very important. I'm gonna be honest with you. So in my company, I'm gonna just go there. I was working with a guy who talked about he likes to go quiet for a few days so that we can look like we're so that we can look important and look busy.
What?
Well, I fired him.
Absolutely. What in the hell? What in the hell?
Yeah, we don't do
No.
that in the government. So all that to say, the faster you respond to those emails, the more you're going to feel trusted. Here, let me explain. It doesn't make you desperate. It gives a sense of security to that contracting team. Because look, I get it. Some people feel like, well, isn't that a two-way street? Sometimes when we reach out to them, they don't reach back out to us that fast. Well, that's because one person's managing 50 damn projects.
And he got the bag. Don't be
and
arguing with
he
the
and, and he got
bag.
the bag. That's it. But here's what you're doing when you email them back, or let's say if I'm still sitting in the seat as a contracting officer, when you email me right back, you're giving me a sense of security. I know that when I reach out to this person, I'm going to get something back fast. So I'm scribbling. I'm making notes of this now.
Mm,
And all of the other people I talk to, think about this. There's a part of the procurement process, the vetting process that we call gate check. That's when we're now looking at all of the people who bid it and all the people who made it, all the people who made it to the end, where we start saying these are our top two, top three bidders, right? Let's see if y'all all come in with the same certifications, same credentials, same qualifications, same everything. But one person responds within 24 hours, the other responds within 3 days. There are nothing that sets you and this other vendor apart with qualifications. Who the hell you think we choosing? We got
definitely not.
one last thing left now because y'all stack up all the way here, and guess what? That is justifiable by far as well.
And it's,
We
I
can
think it's,
we
go
can
ahead.
use you to beat out your competition just because you respond faster.
Now, if there's nothing else that you get out of that, and I will even say that there's been times where I missed something, and the
Hmm.
contracting officer reached out and was like, "Hey, I mean, one time I missed the whole signature document, which that's death. If you miss the
Hmm.
signature document, usually that means there's no contract for you." And I missed
Yep.
the whole document when I organized the whole thing. I don't know
Yep.
how the Lord, but I responded right away. She's like, "Shinny, you forgot." I was like, "Oh, thank you so much." I was super humble. I was like, "Whatever you need me to do, boss." So it's like,
Yep.
what if I didn't respond? And then they just was like, "Well, she didn't respond and she didn't have that document. I'm going to the other person."
Yep.
So that's really, 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 really important. Really important.
Because remember, these COs are trying. These COs, they want to stay out of hot water, and they want to stay available to their executives who they have to answer to. So so when an incidental comes up in an agency, most incidentals are always tied to some project that's going on, which is tied to some contract. So if they know that they have this person, they have this vendor, or this prospective vendor who is moving that fast, they already know that this is going to help them. There's going to be a time where they need you to come through, especially if you're
Mhm.
the type of contractor, you're the type of company that has people on call throughout like during non-business hours.
Yeah.
We've had several situations like that where my executive calls me 7 o'clock at night on a Friday evening for for a question that it's not really in my power to answer. The actual company that we gave the contract to has to answer this question. And I was like, oh my goodness, I gotta call like three or four, I gotta call people's cell phones now. And whenever there was that person who was willing to answer at an 8 p.m., 7 p.m. on a Friday night, I'm gonna tell you this. There's certain things that you can't say out loud, but whenever there was lanyard money, whenever there was a way to make a change order to get them a little more money, we did it.
See, this is a people business, y'all. Like you and you have a need. Like the need is to get this organized, whether it's for you, whether it's for whoever your clients are within that organization, and
Mm-hmm.
you have a need. So just like you have a need in your own house, you want the plumber that answers the phone. Don't get me started, because
That's
that
right. And so
Lord have mercy.
and I'll leave y'all with this point on this one. Just put it this way: there is always a way for us to put together a memorandum of justification as to why this job could include more money. Hint, hint.
Oh,
In other words, we can because of how you communicate, we can create some fluff and back it up by far to put more money in this contract.
how do I
In
ask?
layman's terms,
How do I ask you?
huh?
How do I ask you? I want to push that faster. Like I've been responsible. What if you don't know? So how do I ask you? Hey, do you think there's any way that we can do this service for you? Like, is that how you ask for more money?
No. What you do is you say you tell them that you've identified
Ah,
you've identified some dysfunction or a gap in hole that was not that they didn't catch in the initial RFP.
for the change order. Gotcha. Because some people
Yep.
say change
Yeah,
orders are
yeah.
a pain, but I guess it depends. If you're a good contractor, then I think
Hmm.
anybody's willing to kind of bend over backwards when someone is really a good worker for them, whether it's their
Yes.
own workers or someone you're hiring in your house or whatever. I think it's like people got to think they're so rigid with government contracting, which it is rigid. You can go to jail, but it's still a people business. Like
It
do
is a
what's
people
right. Point
business.
point blank period. Do what's right, and I think that will win every time. And document. Okay,
Yes.
document
Yes.
do what's right.
Yes.
Because Lord
They
have
got to
mercy.
remember. They got to remember. Like you said, it's a people business, and people want to solve. They want to solve problems. They want
Yep,
problems off their desk.
correct. No like and trust. So we have wait a minute, we got some more money in the building. I feel like this is Players Club. Hold on. Wait a minute. They loving you, Derrick. Thank you so much, Tia,
I
for the super
appreciate that.
sticker.
Yes,
Appreciate that.
We're gonna have to we're gonna have to put on some kind of conference in Atlanta or something where people come
Ooh,
out.
don't threaten me with a good time. I would love that. That's
Yeah,
that's what I like to do.
please give me an excuse to come to Atlanta.
Look,
I love
look,
it.
you think
I love
Houston is
Atlanta.
bad. You think Houston is bad. Atlanta, we call it home of the scammers. But we good over
Hmm.
here on this side. We good over here on this
I
side.
do love Houston, by the way. I do love Houston. I like Atlanta. I like Atlanta and Dallas a little more, but I still love Houston.
Dallas is an interesting place. Dallas is an
I,
interesting place. I like it too. I'm
yeah.
there usually the 1 to 2 times a year. So
Yep.
D Blake said, first of all, thank you both for your service. Derrick, at any time would you advise, whether personal or professional, someone that the contracting officer just might not be your thing? Like someone that contracting.
Would you
Oh,
advise?
meaning okay, I'm guessing they mean where you would discover that I don't need to work in government contracting. I'm thinking that's what he means. I'm thinking.
Let me. I want to make. I don't. Yeah. I want to. Let me see if I
Elaborate
can
on that,
rephrase.
G. Yeah,
Yeah,
elaborate.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Let me say, there, at any time, would you advise, whether personal or professionally, would you advise that someone just might not that someone would you advise someone that contracting just might not be your thing? Oh, I think I got it. I think I got that.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
Somebody who's looking for fast money.
Ooh, that's a fact. That's a fact. I've had
This
people tell me that they don't want to do it anymore after I talk to them.
Yeah, it's
You
not
know,
a and can and let me also add something to that though. I talk to people about this all the time. Look, the GovCon is for people who want to build a skyscraper. It's not for people who want that's people who want to build a skyscraper, not open up a t-shirt stand.
They do have t-shirt contracts though.
And they do have t-shirt contracts, by the way. By the way, and here's what I mean by that, right? Here's what I mean by that too, by the way, right? Um, they got t-shirt contracts, they got musician contracts, they got,
Oh
I
my
mean,
God.
as a matter of fact, I'm actually gonna put out a video of where I'm playing the piano, and it's gonna
Oh,
have people, and it's gonna say if you're interested in musician, you can get a contract as a musician.
I don't know if Ivan is on, but you know, I do Weird Contract Wednesdays, so I don't know if
That's a
Ivan
good
is
one.
still on, but Ivan is a musician, and I found a federal contract, which is usually they'll be mostly be on the local side, but it was
Yeah,
for drummers, and that's what he does, and he did it. He was in the Army band, and I was like, oh, I found something for you finally, you know what I mean? So I don't know if he's still on, but like I don't know if you
yeah,
got a chance to look at it, but they have everything, every
yeah.
possible
Yes, they
thing. So
do.
y'all check out his video and Weird Contract Wednesdays on my channel.
Yep,
Cool.
but what I say is
Yeah,
people who's just want a quick money grab. This
yeah.
is what I want to say. I really want people to, look at the value of how government contracting can help you secure generational wealth.
Yes, Lord. That's a fact.
If you
Scaling
just
and
have if
growing
you
and
have a little
selling.
patience, you can be a millionaire within a couple of years.
And if you watch my channel, my friend Stephanie, that I got into government contracting, she made $1 million in 10 months. First
Yeah,
contract
so
as a
it's
sub.
yeah, exactly. Faster. I was being modest based on what
Right,
kind of contract you do,
right.
and it's one of the quickest pathways to being a millionaire if you are patient enough to learn compliance.
Yeah. And it's all written out. How many businesses y'all
You're
need to
just
drop?
copying what's there.
If y'all need to drop the type of businesses you've been in. If you've been in the MLM, I've had so many businesses. I started business at the age of 12. And this is
Yeah,
one of the only things besides you buying a course or something like that, paying for a class, is free. Like I bought many properties and spent tens of thousands of dollars. And I probably at the end of all of it, it ended up being just even. You know, after
yeah,
several years, you forget the money because even if you get a
yeah.
100,000 back, you probably spent 200,000 over time. You know, just not even thinking about a nickel and diamond. But like this is the one of the only things you could do that's free, but it takes your time, and that's it.
That's
Everything is
it.
pretty much free, and
That's
you can
it.
scale just like you said, generational wealth if that's what you choose. Build a business to sell. You become a big business overnight. I opened my bank account with my first check. I didn't even have a bank account yet. I did it all wrong. But I'm just saying, like you know, $70,000 check. Hey, I would like to open up a bank account, and they about to call the police on me. Like
Yep.
it's really that it can happen that quick. So you know, it's this is hands down. Everything else that y'all try to learn, MLMs and all this other scammy stuff, is a lot harder than this because this is already
Mhm.
written out. They're telling you
It
exactly what
is.
they need. It's in black and white. Just damn do it. Ooh,
That's
okay.
it. That's it. We gotta
Soapbox.
get. Yep. 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 That's it. It's
That's
it's
it.
it's it's all they have to do, is stop. Look, man. Look, stop real surfing and actually and sit down and learn something that requires you to sit in one place to sit still for 45 minutes or a couple hours.
That's a fact.
That's how you move from the 99% to the 1%.
That's a fact. And then, you know, some of us still work a full-time job, whatever, and you like, I really don't have the time. We make time for what we want, but then on top of that, my daughter worked for me when she was 14. And I've told the story many times. She just filled out, I gave her all the preliminaries. She filled out all the stuff, and I did the technical stuff or the things that took me a little longer. It's hard for me to do anything super redundant.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I failed because I wouldn't do contract because I knew I had to fill in the name and the email address and
Yep.
over and
Yep.
over and over on 1,000 documents, and I just wanted to just pluck both eyeballs out. But I'm like, okay, what can I do? I ain't got a whole lot of money. My daughter did charge me, but not a lot. So
Yep.
she was 14, one of the best employees I've ever had still to this day. She just did it. That was it. So
Yep.
here's the stuff and my money, please. You know, so you can find ways to make it work if you don't have, you know, you're not good with time management, whatever those things are gonna make you, they're gonna let you know if
Mm-hmm.
you can do
Mm-hmm.
this too.
Yep.
Because if you're not able to read, you don't want to read, you don't even want to use Chat GPT, you don't want to do nothing, you just want to get the money, then this might
Yep.
not be the avenue for you.
That's
Truly.
right.
You
That's
think
right.
I'm mean? People think I'm mean and
No.
I'm rude. I had a contracting officer cuss me out in front of my mama. I had him on speakerphone. I had to bleep, bleep, bleep. And it wasn't even my fault what happened. It was saying working with subcontractors you don't know. That's why I started laughing because it wasn't even my workers. It was another subcontractor's workers that messed up and he cussed me out in front of my mama. He don't care. So it's like, you think I'm mean? Wait till these people got $3 million coming your way and you're not doing what you're supposed to do. Okay? That's a whole
Yeah.
different conversation you're going to have to have. Okay, stepping off the soapbox again. So Tia5364 said, I won a contract during the government shutdown. Congratulations, girl. Got to get you on the channel. I had a contracting officer that I previously worked with reach out to me and ask for a quote for catering services. That's what I'm talking about. We ended up winning that. That's what she was ready. She was at the ready. She didn't say, oh, the government shut down. I'm just going to turn off my emails. People will say stuff like that. No, you got to always be ready. I love that. Okay, so we have is it Kuma 6AI? What is the importance of FedMall as for Dibs dealer? I don't really work with Dibs. I had Day on my channel a few times. He does Dibs and DLA, but are you familiar with Dibs or work with it or anything?
What's the importance of FedMall? I'll be honest. If you're talking about if we're talking, I don't work with it, but I've worked with it. But when I look at FedMall, right, I think about, like, it makes me think of like Fed Biz Ops and all of the other platforms that are out there.
That are old.
Um, yeah, yeah. Look, the government really is pushing getting away from anything that is not streamlined through SAM.gov.
Okay, well, let me see how many questions we got because I want to.
They're pushing. They're really pushing that hard.
I mean, Sam is really it. When you go to Fed Biz Ops, it routes you to Sam. So anybody
Hmm.
that even if you
Hmm.
go there, it's almost like there's some people that are like, what the hell is that? Because they came in after the fact. So
Hmm.
um who is it? Thank you so much. She's in tech. Awesome. Yes, girl, come on out if we do a conference. Come on
Yeah.
out. Hang out with us. I might go to Houston. I ain't never been to Houston. So Tia
Really?
said,
Really?
never been.
Wow.
I know. It's one of those things where it's like, don't crucify me.
Yeah.
I know I've been. I need to come out and see what y'all talking about. Tia said I have to go back and watch the whole video again. Take notes, yes, please. Shonda, shout out to Shonda. She is our student and she was also our GovCon agency's sweet client. She is a mover and shaker. Love Shonda. Had to catch the replay. Yes, please, please, please. And Ivan is here. Ivan, did you bid on that contract for the drummers? Seeking it out and getting some more info. Good, 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 good. Yolanda, non-emergency transportation services. Love it. Okay.
Hmm.
I want to talk about GSA schedule. So is that a part of the streamline from your lens? People are like, why are you not on the GSA schedule yet? And then it's like, well, I've been on the GSA schedule since the 80s and I've never won anything. Or is it better now than it was before? Just give us the rundown.
GSS they're actually getting much better with that. The GSA schedule is now getting to the point where if you if you can get a GSA schedule, right? If you can get a GSA schedule, it's really worth it because they really are moving towards making sure everyone on there get attention. They're basically making it to where the GSA schedule is their official co-op. It's like their official
Hmm.
e-buy or buy board. It's that so it was always supposed to be that. It just wasn't functioning that way. It was still they were still playing favorites. But now they really are making sure that if that the people on those schedules are actually getting that attention they need, and the way they're doing that is through restructuring the agencies from within, restructuring the regulations and the policies within the agencies. What they're basically saying is that if, for example, we automatically know. I'm gonna go back to like Uline and all these people, right?
Hmm.
We already know that those people are going to have GSA schedules because of how long they've been in the game, how big they are, and their
Oh,
capacity.
didn't
But
think about that.
and so the reason why they're restructuring and they're making this part of the far over, they're actually including this in the far overhaul. Um, the government is actually starting to struggle with them not going to a lot of the smaller and newer businesses on the GSA schedules. The government is realizing that they can get things faster, and the Trump administration, that's their thing, speed. So that being said, and make sure I send this to you, Sheena. There, I actually have about probably 3 or 4 emails from direct sources that actually talks about this specifically.
Send it. Send
Yes,
it.
yeah, yeah,
Please. Yes, we could do
yeah,
a part two. No
yeah,
problem.
yeah. So just to speak to that, the GSA schedules is going to become much more important and significant for the smaller businesses and the new business, the newer businesses that's being added. Why? Because the government needs it, and the government and what's happening is there's a lot more accountability coming to the agencies now. It's not this thing. Whereas you know what, we got old Billy John over here. He's been the guy who gives us, cows and horseshoes whenever we need them. We don't care if it takes old Billy John 5 months to replenish when he runs out. We're not going to Sheena. We like Billy John's horseshoes because we like Billy John better. No, the agency, they're not playing that game no more. The agency, when they need more horseshoes, they're gonna if they need 5,000 and it takes them coming to if they need 5,000 by next week, and the only way they can do that is by going to 10 different people on that schedule. That's what they're gonna do now. They're not
Okay,
gonna wait
that's
to
good to
Billy
know
John.
too. Okay,
Yeah.
so that compared to a contract. I'm sorry, my dog decided to participate. So that is even better when it comes to like on SAM.gov, where it's one big contract, and they're likely most of the time. Sometimes they'll say multiple vendors, but most of the time it'll be just one, right? Almost like the lottery. So
Yep.
if we're talking about GSA schedule, then you're almost more likely to be able to, be one of few, but you're still getting the work, like you're getting consistent opportunities. So okay,
Yep.
I'm
Because
still gonna wrap my head around it.
right now they're all about get the government is moving to a hey, we just need what we need.
Right, right.
We need
Okay, so
we need if we need it now, we need it now. And so the good thing is that speed that Eric Coffey talks about, that's overriding a lot of the gatekeep what we perceived as gatekeeping.
very cool. Okay, so
Yeah.
with can you talk about ID contracts? Do you know what that is?
IDIQs.
Maybe it must be. So let elaborate on that, Kumo. Are you talking
Um
about IDIQ? Because I'm
like the
familiar.
IDIQ, indefinite delivery, indefinite quantity.
Yeah, because a lot, and that's a so speaking of which, I tell people that you can be awarded an IDIQ contract and never execute. And so
Mm-hmm.
when some of these people on the interwebs, they're like, I want $1 billion contract. I'm like, okay, let's pick this apart a little bit. Okay, you're probably one of 10,000 or more. You could be
Yep.
one of a million. You talk about
Mm-hmm.
$1 billion contract, and then you may not ever execute. And then, but people still count it, right? Because you still put it on your resume that you awarded $1 billion
Yep.
contract,
As yep, past performance.
and
Yep.
it sounds so sexy, but you may
It
not ever
does.
get one singular dollar out of that. So I'm guessing that's what you're talking about, Kumo. But yeah, that's one of the things. And shout out to Parrish Morris. He was my mentor way back, way back, a government
Everything
contractor.
is
He's been in
new.
the
Hard
game,
reset for procurement. Yes, sir. Yes,
been
sir.
around for a while.
I have a couple. I have a couple procurement mentors who was in the game like over 40 years. Yep. Everything is new. Hard reset. Yep.
Yes, that's a fact. And so G Lewis says, I'm in Houston and I have a skill in building wood fences. I've been researching government contractor for a couple of years now and am considering a mentor. Well, you got two right here.
Yeah,
Like
that's right. That's right.
come on
That's right.
out. Come on out. Here's
What's going
information.
on? What's going on? Good to see somebody who's local.
Right, right. Yeah. So boom, he's right there in Houston. And so yes, the IDC by Dibs. So Dibs and DLA is almost like a separate, it's like a cousin, a step cousin of
That's
contract.
true.
It's a whole different learning method. And I did 2 videos with Day. He's like the expert at Dibs and DLA. So can't really.
I definitely don't want to speak into someone else's area of expertise. Yeah.
Yes, yes. Okay, so we talked about control the contract. So what's one of the besides trying to get rich quick, what's one of the biggest mistakes you see by new and old contractors?
Ooh, they chase the money before they build the structure.
Like what kind of structure? Like they don't have a professional email or they don't have an
Um,
assistant?
basically, there's basically they have the capability statements, right? But there's nothing that actually shows. There's no footprint of them being operational.
Got you.
Like
So
there's no track record. There's nothing that they can show in their proposal that actually there's nothing. Here's a good way to put it. There's no system of documentation. There's no system there's no system that shows, or no documents that
mhm.
shows that they have systems.
So what should that be? Like, okay, for me, I've been in business for almost 9 years.
Hmm.
If I'm doing a janitorial contract, am I supposed to show you here? One of the things that won me a contract, I'll say this, is my quality control plan.
Hmm.
And so, so something like that, or like
Yep, like
that's
I would say, yep, like I would say, for example, here's one thing people never consider. So let's say you talk about your quality control plan, or your contract compliance plan. That's something people don't think about. The
no.
contract compliance plan. I would not look, y'all. I would not submit any proposal without that. Why? Because I know most people's not going to do it, and it's going to set you apart. Even if they don't ask for it, right?
But
But
y'all said don't submit stuff that's not in there. You said y'all said that on everything. Only
well,
submit what we asked for. That's what y'all be saying.
I think what they're talking about is people who go out of their way to oversell
Okay,
services to the point where they're talking about things, they're talking about deliverables.
got
They
you.
don't
Okay,
realize they're kind of low key passively pitching deliverables that's not identified in the statement of work. I think, but if you send something like, for example, contract compliance plans, or and your workforce development plan or initiatives, here's let me tell you why that's important. Because those are one of the things that's one of the things that shows that you're going to remain consistent, that you're going to be able to you're going to be able to retain people in times of low morale. So, for
mm,
example, right? A lot of people don't understand the importance of this, but the leadership component is a good way. That's a good way to tie this into this conversation. Um, one of the biggest problems that we have as contracting officers and procurement people and contracting teams is people. It's like the contract loses momentum a few months into the award,
start slacking
so
off and stuff like
they
that.
they start slacking off. Yeah, so if you show something that shows your workforce retention plan, your workforce, and how do you show a workforce retention plan? You know, find a way to integrate the little things that you do to keep morale high when resources are low.
Mm,
Those
this,
little things.
ooh, that's a key. Somebody drop a key in the chat. This is something that we've tried to develop over time. At me as a company. So this is so important. Like, how do we set apart? What's our differentiator? Something like
I
that.
talk about differentiators all the time. Because those differentiators that shows the difference between problem solvers and hustlers.
I hope none of y'all hustlers on this call. Put a key in the chat, please,
You
because
know,
that's been one of my biggest struggles is how do we scrub toilets better, faster, cheaper? Because you can only go so cheap to where it's free at this point. So cheap
yeah,
can't really be it. Better. We answer the phone, we respond to emails, we're polite, we're professional. Okay, but then there's
and
still some.
and and the way we do that is the people who scrubbing the toilets. You make them feel like don't make them feel like kings and queens.
Yeah.
The people
Yeah.
you got doing the job, treat them good. And
Oh yeah.
people, this may sound very cliche and irrelevant in what I'm saying right now, but I promise you, if you're going when you start going after those larger contracts, it helps to see something somewhere in your proposal that talks about the things that you do to keep your workforce feeling incentivized and appreciated.
This is This is amazing. I don't know if y'all out here because I don't see a whole lot of traffic in these comments. But for those who are already in business and you have employees and you know the struggle of trying to
Hmm.
keep people happy, especially in the labor force, okay, where it's like, they'll leave you for a nickel, some of them. But you have to understand that what he's teaching you, even when if you haven't started yet, you don't have a staff yet, these are things that you need regardless of government contracting. Okay. You
Hmm.
need to be able to keep your people happy and engaged. And that's
And and
very
and
hard
and because here's why I say that, because this is one of the ways that people lose contract control without even having a subcontractor, because
Yes.
you lost the workforce. You lose once you lose the confidence of your workers. That's a way to lose contract control without this having anything to do with subcontracting.
No, that's the thing, because you're not there every day. Everybody wants to sit back and watch HGTV while their employees are doing all the stuff, but then the employees
Hmm.
are over here telling the people that are working in the building how much they hate the company. I've had that
Yep.
where I'm
Yep.
like, and it wasn't even me, it was one of my managers. It wasn't even the company, but they hated the company, but they really hated the manager, and all they see is like, oh, they're not even taking care of their people. It becomes this festering thing that grows and becomes a problem over time. So that's
Yep.
like so key. Ivan says, I'm a personal student of his company, but he is definitely the expert.
Hmm.
Okay. I don't know who we're referring to, Ivan, but okay. So I wanted to go back to something. You talked about the VA contracts, right? Like
Hmm.
the homeless veteran thing, and I think
Yes.
it went over people's heads because I was trying to grasp it, but only because we had the conversation prior to. So I want a contract like that. So what do I need to do?
All right. So basically, now when we talk about the VA and homeless veterans, so for those who don't know, there was somewhere between 3 and 5. I forgot that exact number. Between 3 and 5 billion that was put out for to help end homelessness for veterans. Now we know that we can't end it, but we can work toward it. But
Mhm,
the fact that the government has now put out billions of dollars for this, you know, that's a huge step in the right direction. Also, that's something that's going to remain bipartisan now, which meaning no matter who's in office, whether it's Republican, Democrat, that money for the VA is going to always be there. So that being said, one of the biggest problems we have is homeless veterans. So
mhm,
many people, they always ask about, hey, I wonder how can I get a how can I use my house to house homeless veterans, or I got this duplex, or I got this 5 bedroom. Look, I always get those emails. Me and my partner, who teaches people how to help house homeless veterans. But what I tell them is this: at this point, you should be learning how you can scale, how you can get a lot of properties, or maybe you work with an investor to go and get an underperforming hotel or a small apartment community. Here's
mhm,
why: because just like every major agency, the VA capacity. I tell people all the time, one of the favorite languages of the contracting officer is capacity, right? You know,
mhm.
but why? Because capacity, once again, that speaks problem solver, that speaks community, that speaks I really want to help this agency win. So that being said, if you put together a facility that offers not only homeless support for veterans, but also wraparound support services that shows that you not only want to get them off the street, but you want to address
Like
traumatic brain
rehab.
injury. Right. You
Yep.
want to address PTSD, women who went through military sexual trauma, or just the plight of being a woman veteran. Unfortunately, there are a lot of idiots in the military who think that females are their personal property. You know, so the female veteran population, that is an angle. If you basically you decide you want to house homeless veterans and build a program that caters to a specific veteran population, all the like the ones I just mentioned, you now signal the VA and the SSVF support community. SSVF, that's an acronym for Supportive Services for Veterans and Families. That signals
I'm sorry, SF.
SSVF. SSVF. Yep. Supportive Services for Veterans and Families.
Okay.
Those are your organizations like Volunteers of America, Catholic Charity, and all of your nonprofits that you see in every city doing things to help veterans, right? Well, what happens is these nonprofit organizations are usually the ones that have the money. So if you get a house and you get that up to code to house homeless veterans, you now begin to work. You're putting the pipeline to work with those nonprofit organizations who are
Oh,
grant per diem based. Now, once your house or your facility becomes SSVF designated, that means you are now recognized as a partner. And I can do another video on this to go deeper, right? But
yes.
once you become SSVF designated and you show that you have an intent to scale larger, you now can signal an unsolicited proposal opportunity for the VA's contracting and procurement pipeline to where your entire facility and program can enter into a long-term contract with the United States Department of Veterans Affairs.
So it's
So
better
at
for you to have that than to you say, like, I want to get one or two homeless veterans and just give them a house. So
yes,
they rather see a program than seeing you bring in a couple of people without wraparound services.
right.
More so.
They rather seeing something that either something big that's already big, or something where you're maybe starting off small, but your proposal
Oh,
shows
yeah.
that you have an intent to scale and you can prove that you have the financial capacity to do it. So now look, I know Atlanta, they got all
We
them
ain't got
hedge
no
funds,
money. We ain't got no
huh?
money. We ain't got no money. So what we gonna do? We ain't got no money out here, Derek.
You're
We
gonna
ain't got two retirements, okay?
you get
Retirement
that.
is
And now it's time you got hey they got to go partner with some of these folks who's tied to these hard money folks, these private equity offices and hedge funds. Atlanta got a lot of hedge funds and family offices. Not,
I ain't gonna say that, but go ahead.
they're not always easy to get to, but for those of you who actually have the financial capacity, let's say you can show the financials, you can show that, hey, look, if I was awarded a contract, I can scale at this level. You actually have a chance that you can get a long-term contract with the VA.
What does that
And
amount look like? Like what I mean, if I say I got $5,000 in the bank, I'm sure that's not moving mountains. So what
well,
amount would be like significant in their eyes, at least?
basically an amount that signals the capacity,
Or
any
what you're
capacity,
trying
what
to do.
where you can get, like for example, a small motel or a small apartment, or let's say you can get four duplexes.
So it needs to be more substantial than you just having one property or one. It needs to
Yes,
show multiple
at least a small community. I would say eight.
communities.
I would say four duplexes. That's 8 units. That's a community.
So okay, just as a side question, because I know there's over the years of hearing about people housing homeless people, homeless veterans, they're like, oh, you can put like three, four of them in one room. Is that also something that you can do, or does the VA specifically frown on that, or it just doesn't really matter?
It does. It's all about the space in a room.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Obviously, single room occupancies are going to always be the most popular. That's going to be the most attractive, but a double room occupancy is good. So I mean, so you think about it, right? Let's say if you have, I don't know, let's say if you have a facility that has 20 rooms, and we're talking about whether that facility is a mixture of multiple duplexes or just a small like a small hotel or apartment community. But
Gotcha.
let's say you got let's say you got 20 rooms and you put two people in each room, right? I mean that's not bad as long as there's enough space so that everybody at least
Reasonable.
have a sense of privacy.
Yeah. Okay. Like reasonable space. I'm sure there's probably like specific.
Reasonable space.
Yeah. Okay. So that's
Yep.
really that's okay. Y'all heard it. Look, go out there. Derrick got money. So for the rest of us, they ain't got no money. We gotta work with Derrick.
Oh Lord. Oh no, no, no. Derek is climbing like everybody else.
No, it's too late. It's too late. You didn't already told us. Nope. But no, getting partnering with that's a good idea though, because with some abandoned buildings and they don't really know what to do with them. When I was in wholesaling a long time ago, there's cities that own houses that don't even know are there for real, and one had a tree growing through it. It had been there for forever. And the city, it was owned by the city didn't even know it was there. So, if you're able to kind of dig through and you really want to do it, then you could probably find something that's abandoned where people, will be willing to give it up or sell it for super cheap. You never know. You never know unless you ask. So real quick with
Yep.
this question, Fresh Progress Beauty, thank you so much for so many comments. I really appreciate the involvement. Any advice on workforce retention, guest speakers, incentives, gift cards, staff surveys? I'll give my opinion after you give yours.
Any advice on workforce retention? Guest speakers, incentives, gift cards, staff surveys. Okay, okay. Obviously, yeah. You're gonna, of course, the incentives, gift cards, and staff surveys. That's always a great thing, right? But you want to know the biggest thing that I've seen with workforce retention. And now I'll talk about my last role after I left the federal government. I worked as a procurement officer for City of Houston. My That was my last role. So I went from federal to municipality. And one of the things that I made it a point to do is to make sure that with every procurement strategy that we came up with to move a project, I made sure that my employees felt like their thoughts matter. Y'all have no idea that a lot of times that means more to an employee than a raise.
That's a fact. I mean, I am like living proof of that. All my employees drank the Kool-Aid. I'm like, I don't know why y'all rocking with me so hard. I appreciate it. But like even just listening to them, just being a good person towards your employees. I
Hmm.
think I've had over 35 jobs, maybe because I knew what it was like to, be in a SHIT situation. But it's just being human toward
Yep.
people and being empathetic. There's certain things people are gonna get over. There's nothing you can do about it. So I also
Yep.
see people that will hire somebody and they didn't work out. Now they hate all employees on earth. I'm like, well, you just didn't find the right one for your company, or even
That's
at that
right.
time. I got back all the karma for the bad employee that I was for a few jobs. Hopefully that's gone now. But there's probably some people like she was the worst employee ever. Meanwhile, they other companies wanted me to be the manager at 22. So it's like it was
Yeah.
the wrong time for me to be with those other ones. So you just never really know how far that empathy and talking to people and getting their opinions. That's a lot of large companies. They do that. Like they do the undercover boss. They do. Employees can bring ideas and they'll get some kind of bonus for it. One of my
Mhm.
favorite things to do is to watch documentaries of old like businesses started. Like there's on Hulu,
Yes.
the food that built America, the Titans that built America, like all these different, even though it was 1800s, early 1900s, business
Hmm.
is business, right? There's
It
still
is.
thought
And people
processes.
and people and people are still people.
People are still people, and so just like the different things that they've done to succeed and fail, you just pick up some of those things and see if they work. There's some employees, if I'm just gonna cautiously say this, but like if I didn't give them a raise, they still just love what they do so much. It's flexible. It's I listen, that they may stay for forever, but they know that they're doing what they want to do. That's more
Yep.
sometimes more important. Make sure y'all hit like on this video because we're gonna ride out, because I don't want Derrick to be sleepy for whatever you gotta do tomorrow. I was about to say work, but you said
Planning.
entrepreneurs work
All I'm
24/7.
doing to I'm just I gotta do. I'm just building up the tomorrow. I'm just building up the learning community. just building up the GovCon Empire Learning Community.
Yeah,
That's it.
and talk about that because I want to ask one more
That's it.
question about your transition to city procurement. So talk about your company and what what you offer, what you do, what you teach.
Yes, ma'am. Yes. Well, so basically, the company is so the platform is GovCon Empire, and that's just an offspring of Sky Acquisitions, the company, which is obviously a government contracting and commercial contracting, consulting and project management firm. Now,
Nice.
GovCon Empire, just GovCon, obviously the word empire, like emperor or empress, right? All it does is teaches businesses to operate the way the government expects. That's it, before the government forces them to. And we simply provide consulting, education, and provide consulting and education for companies, but then for us, joint venture opportunities for institutional venture investors.
Nice.
And I have to say that because a lot of people will reach out and say, "Hey, I'm interested in a joint venture." I say, "Well, yeah, if you're interested in a joint venture, you also bring in capital, because my team they have to get paid while they work and help you ramp up your operations for the government, right?" So that's for venture. So joint ventures for us would be for either institutional investors or obviously someone like Sheena, because we're already at the same level, which means we can offer each other equal value.
I see.
So
Bring
yeah,
value. Yes, that's my
yeah,
call word.
yeah, yep. So but the good thing is, for those who are not on that level, we have a course community that we a learning community where we're actually going to have course where we're going to upload courses that keep people in front of things. So not a
Nice.
static course, but a continual. It's going to look Q&A sessions, live Q&A, live support. And so
Mm,
when they subscribe to that learning community, there's going to be a continuous flow of updated information, announcement of live Q&A sessions, and constant strategy being uploaded inside of that learning community. So when they go to the if they go to the GovCon Empire YouTube channel, the link for that platform is there. It's the inner circle, basically, and they'll be able to get all that stuff. Hopefully they'll be able to see me talking with Sheena on there sometimes. Um,
yes.
yeah,
No,
and
truly. It's right there on the
yes,
screen, you all. Right under his name, you can see GovCon Empire. So start with his YouTube. Support the YouTube, okay? And then
everything stems from there. Yep.
yeah, yeah. And look, we're out here, fighting tooth and nail with YouTube platform, teaching you all about this stuff. You know what I mean? Like if he's like me, which I feel like is similar, we got a synergy here that we want to see people succeed. This is not
Yeah.
a money grab like this, even for us. Like we could keep
Mm-mm.
all this to ourselves, especially him. He was on both sides of the ball. So it's like he could go out here and just get all the contracts for himself and not say a word. So please take heed to people who are teaching about government contracting. Even if y'all feel like I don't like the person, other people, that doesn't matter. All they teaching because y'all swear everyone's my enemy, and I'm like, where you getting this from? I never said that, but like, if people are
Yeah.
teaching about government contracting and they're legit, and you can pick out the ones at this point who's legit and who's not.
Yeah, because the
Then
ones that are legit, you're gonna also hear a lot about. You're gonna hear compliance. You're gonna hear them reference stuff from the FAR, things like that. Yeah.
correct, yeah, and then examples, not just like just go out here and
Mm-mm.
and but even like let's just me being a devil's advocate, even if that just got you introduced. War Dogs was doing something; they were doing something illegal. It got me introduced to government contract. It told me
It did.
exactly what not to
Yep.
do. So
Yep.
even if it just leads you to the water, that's okay. But just understand what you're getting into, knowing that you can go to jail. There's one of the few things you could do, and you'll
Yes.
go to jail if you do it wrong. So
Yep.
segue into the difference between your federal procurement and your municipality. Did you see a significant difference? Was it based on the location? Just shady Houston. I'm just saying.
I know. What I see. Municipality, and this is going to be a shocker for a lot of people. In municipality procurement, there's typically more gatekeeping because it's a small pond.
Yeah.
Every city got those important last names, those important
Ooh,
family names. Those they feel like they own every damn thing in a city. They feel
interesting.
like their families and the friends of their families are supposed, all of their sister families and stuff. They're supposed to get the airport contract. They're supposed. So what
I'll
you
say
run
airport.
into is every other contract. There's a protest in municipality procurement
More protest
because
on the local side.
yep,
Wow.
yep, and then remember they have to remember everything starts with the FAR. Then every state purchasing regulation has to be a spinoff of the FAR, which means they have to add the things that make that state, that they have to add the differentiators from that state. And so, guess what? The city has to do the same thing. So, that being
Wow.
said, it's gonna the procurement process, the contracting process for the city is typically gonna be it's gonna be more scrutinized, and it's gonna be more even more compliance heavy because when you're looking at in a municipality setting, every contract, every procurement award has to clear the city council. Every one of them has to clear the city council.
What about state? So only for city, not for county.
Only for city.
Oh,
Only for city.
okay.
Yeah,
That's
they it has to clear the council. So because
interesting.
it's such a small pool,
Got
even if it's a big city, it's still considered a small pool.
got it. I
Whereas,
never separated. I never
yep,
separated that
you know
part.
what? Whereas in the federal government, they can't clear the council because the council would be in the federal government. That the council would be the cabinet. Who's going all the way up to the cabinet?
Yeah, nobody. So you feel
Nobody.
like it's easier on the federal side than it is on the local side? Get out of
Yes.
here. No, that goes against everything I teach.
Well. I'll say this. I'll say this. From from a compliance standpoint, yes. From a visibility standpoint, no.
What do you mean by visibility?
Because it's easier to be seen in a city. It's easier
Got
to be
it.
seen. You know, you it's much easier. It's much easier to be seen in a city. So, so for example, I have a guy who matter of fact, it's one of the people I reference on a page. He was able to get a large construction contract that included asbestos and abatement that he probably would not have been able to get with the federal government
Mm,
because he doesn't have that visibility with all of the relationships in the federal world. But it was much easier for us to build him a campaign in a city because it's smaller. So city is easier in that regard because it's easier to get visibility in a city procurement pipelines. The federal government is typically easier because there's not as much compliance issues because the federal government doesn't deal with as many protests and
mm.
as much protest and gatekeeping, meaning everybody feels like they own the rights to it because this is my city.
I see
It's
what you're saying.
yeah,
Okay. I so even with the different protests, I almost did a local protest. And it just wasn't. I realized that I probably didn't want to work with that county anyway, but I know there's different processes. So have you seen maybe unique ways or that they try to keep you from protesting? It was one where you had to pay. I know you have to pay for a protest in general, right? Or something
yep.
like that. And then this one was like, you gotta like donate blood, give your firstborn, your thirdborn, and donate this, and pay, and submit it this exact way. Like it has to be 7 hours after the daggone contract was like, what in the world? So they had all these different parameters in place. So is there anything you could speak to on that you've
Not
seen
not
maybe?
not immediately. Not There's nothing that comes to mind immediately.
Okay.
I know that what I do know with if I could speak for like city of Houston, New Orleans, Dallas, some of the local areas that I'm familiar with. Not I haven't seen anything with anything that's more complicated with the protest process, but these cities aren't as heavily procurement and contracting driven as the cities on the east. Two.
Like just on the East Coast, like Northeast
Like
or
all the way up and down. Not all. I'm talking about even down south in Atlanta.
Florida
Because
same.
right, because I'm noticing that the cities that are, the cities to where if you just go all the way up the East Coast, right?
Mhm.
Atlanta, Charlotte, DC, Baltimore, Philly, New York. It's almost like because you're in that same straight line with DC, it's like you're getting more of it just from being over there.
Oh no, because let's say north of DC, they kind of operate the same. But down here, I would even say just like the Carolinas and
Yeah,
Georgia is similar,
yeah,
and then Florida, they're on an island by themselves. They
yeah,
got
they,
their
yeah.
own.
They do. They're in their own world. They
In their
yeah.
own world. That's what I've experienced because I'd be like, what in the world are y'all talking about? So that's really helpful. So anything else you want to share to the audience? There's still a lot of people on. What y'all doing tonight? I appreciate it. Make sure y'all hit like on this video, please, and share and go back and watch the replay. But nonetheless, anything you want to share for the audience?
I would tell everybody to just really spend time looking at that FAR. And you know what? If you want some of this, look, I know the FAR is huge. Yes, that FAR, Federal Acquisition Regulation, there's a lot of stuff to look at, but that is the government contracting Bible, man. So if you wanted a place to start, I set aside a few FAR parts that I think are good to start with, just
Get your
just
notes
for reading, you know.
for bedtime reading. Make sure y'all get your notebook out and your pen out because I got mine out. I'm ready.
First off, I'm gonna say, right, this is gonna be funny. FAR one, Federal Acquisition System.
Okay.
Part one. That, and the reason that's important is because that gives your general breakdown of what the Federal Acquisition System is, how it gives birth to the entire contracting process, right?
Mm,
Um, FAR Part 9, contractor responsibility. I
okay.
don't even have to I don't have to break that down. That's exactly what it's telling you. Uh, what's your FAR Part 15, contracting by negotiation. Look,
Mm,
here's one thing that's important to know. The two most common for your large contract, the two most common contracting solicitations, right, are going to be your RFPs and your IFBs, invitation for bid. Now, most cities call them invitation to bid.
yeah. Hmm.
At the municipality, so ITB, IFB, same thing. It's important to know that when you look at negotiation, right? That's going to tip your RFPs. That's going to be proposal driven, where you're basically you're not only going out of your way for design, but you're going out of your way to show that you've identified their pain points and your differentiators in terms of solutions. You can throw the whole kitchen sink at them, right? And because of that, it has room for negotiation. Why? Because a lot of your creativity goes into that, whereas your invitation for bid, nope, the agency knows exactly what they want it, how they need it. They already got their schedule out. They just want you to give them the numbers.
And the
And
same
that's
thing
it.
with RFQ, right? Request for
Yep.
quote.
Yep. That's it. And the only difference is the ITB is just a much larger expanded version of your RFQs.
Oh,
Um,
thank you. Finally, I got the answer.
that's
Okay.
it.
Yes.
But
Okay.
that's like so your IFB, that's your RFQ that can have dollar amounts that's as much as an RFP.
Got it. Because there is a dollar amount. So with an RFQ, and I used to remember the number. Hopefully, you remember the number of what that usually goes.
250.
Ooh! Yes, I feel like sometimes I ask these questions and I'm like, I
Yep.
really don't know the answer. So that is
Yep.
really
250.
250 RFQ. So if you ever see an RFQ, now did it go up? Did it go
They're
up to the
they're they're in the
350?
process of pushing it up.
So
It may
right
already.
now,
I'm not sure. Right now, as we speak, they're pushing it up. I
so
think they're trying to get it up to somewhere between 300 and a half million.
so for anyone that sees an RFQ out here on sam.gov and you bid 2.5 million, you obviously are not going to win because it's
That's right.
their cap is at least 250 right now. So that's I remember that learning. I might have learned that from Eric Coffey a long time ago, and I can't remember.
But they're working on pushing it up. The only reason I said 250 is because it's not solidified yet. If if I give a higher number right now, and then once this FAR overhaul is complete, and they decide and they say it's 400 or five, whatever, and then people are gonna come look back at this video and say that dude's a fraud. He don't know what the hell he's talking about.
They're gonna straight up call you a fraud, even if like we're giving a caveat, but like
right.
250
That's
right
right.
now.
That's right. And but right now, as of this video, as of December 30th, 2025, it is in the process of being overhauled.
Yeah, no, that's and thank you for that. Like that's something that people can keep in mind, that if you see an RFQ, that it's going to be this dollar amount, and then just know that things change. We don't make the rules. We are not behind no curtain at the Wizard of Oz making none of these decisions. We are trying to keep up with them the same way that you all
That's
are.
right. And y'all got to remember, Congress is all over the place right now. This is the worst Congress we've ever had. I can say that because I don't work for the government no more. But this is the worst Congress we've ever had, man. They're all over the place right now. So that's why the things that me and Sheena gave you in this video are the things that are constant, the things that are going to be the things that's going to matter regardless of what they decide.
Expect the unexpected, but that doesn't mean it's the end. Like I was getting a massage the other day, and like the guy asked me, he was from like maybe Russia or something, and I usually get massages, but nonetheless, it was like I told him what I do, and he's like, oh, it must really suck to do government contracting. I'm like, the massage dude is saying it suck to do government contracting. I'm like, people are still winning contracts. You just got to be strategic. Stop thinking that, oh my goodness, because this happened, then nothing can be done. Like if you have these types of what's the word I'm looking for? Reservations to the point where it paralyzes you, this may not be the industry for you. And I'm saying that with all the respect and love that I possibly can, because there's gonna be changes. You're gonna be on a contract, and they're gonna be like, oh, by the way, we made a decision, and you're in it. You're in it now. There's going to be different things that, is non-negotiable, but then it's like, it doesn't make sense to fight this battle. I'm just going to do. Let me just give one quick story. There I was on one of my biggest contracts, and we were 2 subs down, we were 2 subs down, and we still ended up with a good amount on this contract. Amen. Hallelujah. But I have an IT background, right? So this particular one, we were going to be disposing of stuff, cleaning and carpet cleaning, and the contracting officer, who was a retired E8, okay, not even a long time ago, not even in Vietnam. We're talking about he just retired maybe 5 years ago, so it's not like he's too far to touch. And he said, whatever documents are contaminated, throw them in the trash. So my head popped off my shoulders, rolled on the ground. I was like, what? Don't you know how many breaches the VA has had for one, or all these other locations? And you're telling, I said, Foresight Industries will not be throwing away any documents. Now, we do have a shredding company. Shout out to Parrish. We do have a shredding company we can work with, but no, we're not throwing away documents. And this building had so many federal agencies in it. We talk about Corps of Engineers, Social Security Administration, Department of Education, like you name them, it was in this building. And I'm like, so the prime didn't catch this. The first sub didn't catch this because I came in the contract late. The contracting officer, the COR, nobody else caught this but me, the little humble 2 subs down. And they rewrote the entire performance work statement because of me. So I said all that to say that you're the expert at what you do, right? And a lot of times contracting officers, respect, don't know the exact parameters around the thing that you're doing in particular. You're the expert. Just like when the plumber comes and he's like, well, yeah, we can do this. And sometimes stuff can be scammy, but you don't really expect that on this side as much on the government contracting side. But he's like, but if you don't do this, yeah, we can fix it now. But if you don't put this whatever on, and I'm not a plumber, so I don't know, then you're going to have a problem in 6 months. Just let you know. So that's what your role is as a contractor, is to be the expert. Don't let, I had Carl Jibo, my attorney, on my channel twice, 2 or 3 times actually. And the reason why I really liked him is he gave a story about a contractor who listened to the contracting officer. The contracting officer knew what he was talking about. It was something about some pipes underground. The pipes burst, ruined the whole contract because he didn't use his expert knowledge and he listened to the contracting officer trying to move too fast. And so don't let anyone compromise your integrity, your company. They will still have their 9 to 5 and you'll be out of business. And you might even owe.
Right.
You might even owe. So Derrick's eyes are getting glossy as I'm getting more ramped up. So
No, I'm good. Oh no, I'm good. All my friends tell me that I look like my eyes are closed a lot of times. I got look. I got I'm sorry. And look, I know I can rabbit trail a lot, but I know you asked about far. I'll say it fast. Far parts 1, 9, and 15. We said that. I just had 2 more that I would start off with. Far parts 42, contract administration. I mean that's. Come on, we talk about all of the various aspects of oversight and just that's compliance. That's how to manage it basically, right? And then far parts 52, contract clauses, and that's the one that includes our favorite subpart. Notice of limitations on subcontracting, as well as a lot of very important other very important clauses people might want to look at. So far parts 1, 9, 15, 42, 52. Those are some good places to start.
Yes, and again, I don't know if I said it before the call or during the call, but someone had did a comment on one of my YouTube videos, and it was a teaching moment for me because I didn't fully grasp that part, but they were just saying in between micro purchasing, which is now 15,000, and the simple acquisition threshold, which is now 350,000, that there's no subcontractor limits. And I'm like, yeah, but, and then Derrick went on to say, okay, that's cool. It may not be in the FAR, but then the contracting officer or whoever is a project manager expects you to do what you said you're going to do and not have someone else doing all the work.
Because even if there's not any limitations and they come to you and you can't speak properly or efficiently to that incidental, you are still going to get in trouble.
Yes, you got to be. You say you're the neurosurgeon, like you said, then speak neurosurgeon talk.
That's it.
Like you're not just going to be respectfully a plumber and then you're hiring a neurosurgeon and then you're like, "Why? The sub is the one who." No, you the one that's
right. Because I would say don't look. My and another thing I'd say to them, Sheena, is for them to don't look for ways around compliance. Look for ways. Look for ways that you can creatively be compliant. You know what I mean?
I like that. I like that. Do it. Stick in your industry. And now, if your uncle and your dad been working in construction for 40 years, I'll give you that. I'll give you that because if you trust them to do what they say they're supposed to do as well, then okay. And you might be a neurosurgeon, but your dad and uncle do construction, cool. But if underwater welding, but you a nurse, like just don't do it because it's not worth it. There's enough contracts that for everything, to where you'll find enough money, enough to eat, truly. So just anyway, so we're at almost 2 hours and 30 minutes. And y'all still on. Make sure you hit like on this video and please share it with someone that might find it beneficial. Please, please, please follow Derrick on his channel, GovCon Empire. Yes, and all his programs that he's offering. He is the key. Y'all say you need this gatekeepers. Everybody a gatekeeper. Here's a non-gatekeeper right here sharing industry knowledge. So I don't want to hear that no more. So go and check out his stuff and support for the support that he has given us. Okay. So any final words?
Be a problem solver. When you my that's my biggest thing that I'm pushing right now. The government, I'll say it. We said it before. They have to remember, contracting officers, procurement officers they are not looking to hand out contracts. They're looking to get problems off their desk to people who show up with compliant solutions.
And thank you for breaking that down, what that actually looks like. What makes you a different toilet scrubber? But you broke it down to where it's like, well, hey, I see this. and this is how we can make it better. So that's
Yeah.
very, very key. So, Derrick, please stay on. But for you all, thank you for staying with us for all this time. You could be anywhere in the world, but you're here with us. Go ahead and watch the replay if you came in a little bit late. So until next time, it's your favorite veteran. Peace out.